Bing, bang, boom. Here we are. The Goat, good to see you. Hey, man, hope you're having a good day. I'm not. I'm not. Happy to be here live for once. Good to see you, The Goat. Garden State, good to see you. Dragon Fruit, good to see you. I'm going to be as upfront as I can. I'm going to say this a couple of times over this stream, guys. I found this to be extremely triggering. I don't know how else to describe it. I found this to be extremely demoralizing, depressing, infuriating, saddening. It really reminds me that there's this kind of tone that exists in the culture, right? Even people who criticize it, right? Even the people who I kind of ostensibly stand with, right? But there's this kind of tone. There's this kind of, huh, can you believe it? Huh, this kind of Jon Stewart-esque, Hasanabi kind of just and I'm just kind of I think it comes from that sort of, it all boils down to that kind of phrase, right? There's a phrase that I think exemplifies the zeitgeist and the tone of our society. And it is, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. We gotta stop laughing. We gotta stop laughing. We've been listening to clowns and comedians for way too long. We've been listening to clowns and comedians for way too long. And laughter has become a way for people to shrug off criticism. Oh, it was just joking, man. It was just a joke. And because we're not actually crying, we're not actually grieving, we're not actually going through the process of feeling and being a human being, we're losing our capacity for empathy. We're teaching ourselves to point at horror and laugh at it, which means that we're pointing at things that are unjust and laughing instead of being outraged. And we gotta stop laughing. And so this whole tone of the zeitgeist, I mean, I guess I'll never be popular, but I don't know. I don't give a shit about that. I don't know. I've seen what makes you cheer. New CIA drone pilot over on Twitch. Elon is a total coward. Man had to play it off as something else because he's scared, but he's the richest person on Earth and bought himself a place in Trump's government. Who the F is going to stop him? Yeah. I mean, that's part of the sadness, right? Now's when we need more Luigis, he continues. Yeah. The captain, good to see you, says, we are losing our maternal sense. I think we've just lost our humanity completely. I don't think it's about maternal or paternal or anything. I just think that there's a lot of, we're very demonic. There's a demon running loose. Yeah, Long Defiant writes, Roman salute. Yeah, and I mean, the cowardice, we're going to be going through a bunch of this stuff, but the most obvious negative part of this is this is, and I'm posting this just as a way for you guys to know it when you see it, right? It empowers fascists and Nazis, is what it does. It lets the fascists and the Nazis know that they can do this kind of stuff, and it's fine. So here's the Nazi salute in digital format now. So if you see this, a 0 with a little slash, right? You know what you're looking at, right? It's obvious now, right? No confusion. And the fraudulent, like, from the Mirror, Elon Musk Twitter edits Nazi salute out of his Trump inauguration speech. So they've edited it out, right? So already, we're like a day, 2 days in, right? We're like a day in, and they're already trying to memory hole it. They're already trying to carve it out, right? What if it's just a Roman salute? If it's like no problem, right? If there's no problem, why are you editing it out, right? And like all of these apologists, all of the Nazi apologencia, which incidentally we're going to get into some Nazi apologetics, right? We're going to get into some Nazi apologetics. And that's what this is. It's just all Nazi apologetics. And we should attempt to keep these people accountable, right? But it's all the same people, right? It's the Pierce Morgans of the world. It's the Ben Shapiro's of the world, right? The Nazis, right? Just the Nazis. Just the people who are committing genocide in front of us, the people who are cheerleading it, right? It's all the same people, right? Like, are we surprised? I've been saying it for years and years and years. Like, what's it going to take? Like, what's it going to take? What's it going to take? Like, do they they're literally actually already rounding people up. Like, what's it going to take? Like, what do we need here? Like, what's the story? And this sort of the flippancy by which that we've chosen to discuss this, the sort of scoffing, the fact that we just keep tuning in and listening to clowns. It's time to turn the clowns off. Right? It's time to stop listening to clowns. Oddity, good to see you, my man. Both of his personalities are dweebs. Yeah, absolutely. No, he's like the biggest loser that ever lived. Right? Like the entire justification for creating a person like this, right? The entire justification of neoliberal economics, right? The religious ideology that it is, right? Masquerading as just how like phrenology masquerades as science, right? Neoliberalism masquerades as economics. It's strictly a religious ideology and should be regarded as such. Milton Friedman, Hayek, all these guys are just religious acolytes for a death cult. That's all they ever were, right? They just used language appropriately. They just created a language that sounded scientific but ended up being false and fraudulent. And they were frauds, and they always were. And the promise was always, oh, if we give all of our money, if we give hundreds of billions of dollars to men like Elon Musk, right? This is the objectivist argument. What are they going to do with it? It'll trickle down into the economy, and it'll make more, and they'll invest it, and they'll make a greater, powerful, more America. Oh, so, well, it's okay. Has he? Do they? We can observe reality to find out the answer. Like, Elon Musk could literally go to every single city in America and just house the homeless. He literally could just do that. He could straight up just walk up to any of these empty office buildings and just be like, yeah, okay, put homeless people in there. I'll buy it. Like, boom, done. He could do this. It would not be difficult for him. He literally could fold it into SpaceX. He could fold it into Tesla, right? He just make it part of the business operations. Just like, yes, you're responsible for creating car and research and development, all that kind of stuff. And then also, as part of that project, there's this building over here. And what's that building for? It's for housing the homeless. That's the purpose of it. Garden State with a $9.99 donation. Thank you. I appreciate it, Garden State. I appreciate it. I know I'm delivering a somber tone today, but I think that's all I've got. Garden State writes, after TikTok came back to the U.S., I received multiple violations for communist-like comments. Yeah, thank you for all you do, by the way. Thank you, Garden State. Oh, yeah. No, TikTok has not been safe territory for leftist organizing for a long, long time. But now it's going to get really obvious. Like it's just going to be full of like it's going to have all the typical trash that it always has, but like it's going to go full blown. It's going to go full blown. Like how Elon forces his feed his Twitter on you, right? Like if you have a Twitter, you get Elon, right? Well, the same thing's going to happen with TikTok. They're just going to force content on you. They already do that to a great degree. It's like how Peterson and Shapiro spread around, right? They just force them on you because they're all fucking rapists and pedophiles in the first place. So of course they're going to force themselves on you. Yeah, Long Defiant. He did the salute twice. Yeah, that's how you know the plausible deniability is like totally in the toilet, right? Like, because the argument is that like, oh no, he was sending his heart out, right? Sending his heart out, because everybody knows that you definitely do palm down, stiff arm when you're sending your heart out, right? But anyone with a brain in their head, anyone with basic kindergarten level mechanics would immediately recognize if they did this action, they would be like, oh no, oh dear, oh boy. Any self-awareness at all would tell you, oh dear, I've accidentally done a Nazi salute. And then he turns around and does it again. So all the plausible deniability is off the table. It doesn't stop them from doing it. It doesn't stop them from doing it, which we'll get into. I'm really looking forward to reading this Toronto Sun article and listening to Nazi apologetics from Warmington here. Joe Warmington, Nazi apologist. It's wild watching the society go Nazi, man. Like it is. I knew it was going to happen. Like I knew it was going to happen. I have so many memories. I have so many memories of when I was in high school and university. And I would say to people, that's what the Nazis did, you know. Some new policy would come in, they would do something, right? The war on terror. And nobody believed me and nobody wanted to hear it. And people shouted me down. And I clammed up about it. Because, you know, I want to fit in. I want to be part of what's going on. And maybe I should have been stronger, or maybe I should have been smarter, or maybe I should have stuck to my guns and really because I always knew. And it's sad to see. Apocalypse Now-ish earlier asked, okay, fellow Canadian, what's the plan? What's the plan? Join a gun club. And I'm not joking about that. Go get registered, buy a gun, join a gun club, and I'm not joking. It is your legal right, YouTube and TikTok or whatever is going to ban me for saying it. Right? I am not espousing vigilantism. I am telling you that you need to be prepared to defend yourself and your neighborhood. And I am dead ass serious when I say this. Go get registered, go buy a gun, have a gun, be the guy with the gun. I am doing it. I have registered. I am going in February to go through the registration course, and I will purchase myself a rifle or shotgun, and I will be prepared. You should as well. Be the guy with the gun. Yes, we are there. Yes, it is happening. Yes, it will continue to decline. Yes, it will. Do not fuck around. Do not fool yourself. Do not scoff at me. do not dismiss me. Do not tell me I'm being hyperbolic or aggressive or any of that. We've seen it happen before, and it's right in front of your fucking eyes. Be the guy with the gun. Arm up. No shit. So that's the plan. And dead ass, like, don't join a little communist book club. Don't find the little Trotsky cult. Find a gun club. A club that is for shooting guns. Join it. Timothy, good to see you, my man. On a far more positive note, have you seen Bell of the Fifth Column's recent video on Canada and the trade war that's brewing? I have not. I think you meant Bo of the Fifth Column. I haven't seen that guy around in a long time, actually. Yeah, there's a trade war brewing. February 1st, right? February 1st, they're going to put in tariffs. They're going to cripple Canada's economy. And it is going to cripple the economy of Canada. It's self-defeating, of course. Long Defiant. Justin King, Bo of the Fifth Column, was convicted of human trafficking before he started his channel. I won't listen to him anymore. Yeah, I mean, there is a little part of me that's like, oh, you know, we all make mistakes. But you know what? I've lived 40 years, and I never once made the mistake of trafficking a human being. So I don't know if that makes me morally pure or not. But Garden State. I've been enjoying Red Note very much. Speaking to Chinese people has been very enlightening, to say the least. Yeah, one of the hopeful moments in all of this is that the Red Note connection, Americans actually talking to Chinese people, it has swiftly destroyed basically decades of anti-Chinese propaganda. It's just absolutely destroyed it, laid it to waste, just by basic conversations, right? Basic humanity, basic like, hey, what can you tell me about China? And they do. And they're like, oh, that sounds okay, right? And I think the most crippling thing for the propaganda system has been Chinese people asking American people, saying things like, hey, our government, which, like, that is all the news they get, right? State-funded state media. That's what they get in terms of their news. It's all that's permitted in China, for obvious reasons. Well, obvious to me anyway. And Chinese citizens will say, so our government, like our state media, says that you have to pay for ambulances? That's just propaganda, right? We assume our government is lying to us. And then Americans go, no, that's true. And this has a double sword effect. This destroys America on two fronts. It destroys America because its own citizens realize, oh shit, they don't pay for ambulances in China. And then it destroys America because it has a Chinese citizen going, oh shit, my government, the Chinese government, the communists, told me the truth. So this Red Note moment has been just a cultural nuclear bomb. And it's not going to stop. It's not going to go away. The ramifications and the ripples, like, to me, that's the reason why. Like, they grabbed hold of that Twitter ban, and then they just bounced right off of it because they saw what happened. And they knew that if it continued, it was just going to keep going. And it is still going. It's not going to stop now. This is why they're going full Nazi. This is why they're clapping for Nazis, because they know it's their last stop. Right? They know the empire is coming down. They know the veil of illusion is coming down. And the veils are coming down faster and faster, and there are big veils that are about to be stripped down. The military veil, once the curtain is pulled back and people see how pathetic, small, and weak the American military actually is compared to the budget, because that's what everybody talks about, right? Oh, we spend $1 trillion on our budget. Oh my God, the American military, the biggest force, and oh my God, it's primarily an administrative force, right? They administer bases around the world, which essentially act as trading hubs on behalf of Western capital. Whenever they need to do any kind of military action of any sort, there are two things that they rely on. The first is intelligence services. The CIA is a big one, right? The big one, where they primarily fund far-right neo-Nazi level groups in the country's jihadists, Islamic terrorists, literal Nazis, to coup the government. But more and more people are wise to this. And so it's less and less effective. And then the second thing that they do is they hire private contractors, mercenaries. Well, you can't actually do anything with this. You can't actually fight a proper war like this. And should America actually be confronted with the necessity of actually needing to do real military action, right? No one's going to fight for them. No one's fighting for this. No one's fighting for these fucking Nazis. Right? Like the people who chirp online and do their little Nazi salutes, they're cowards. They're not going to pick up a weapon. Right? They're people like Kyle Rittenhouse, right? Who wants to go to like a protest and gun some people down. Like unarmed assholes. So when that veil comes down and people realize that, oh, we're spending $1 trillion on administrators primarily, right? We're spending $1 trillion so that people can shuffle paper around. And when we do send soldiers into like boot camp or any of this kind of stuff, it's just to stand around with their thumbs up their butt. Like shoot people with drones and launch a rocket at a desert. Like that's what the fucking American military actually is. The whole vision of it, the whole image of it, right, comes out of World War II, storming the beaches of Normandy, and oh my God, but it starts to be revealed more during the Vietnam War, and now it's just a goddamn wisp of a shadow of a piss. Like you want to see real militaries, you got to look at like China. You got to look at like even North Korea. Like you can see the videos where they have like their troops standing and the leader waving and they've got their weapons out in front. You can see it. Well, where's that in America? It's nowhere. Why? Because they're primarily administrators. They're not going to go stand in rows and be prepared for warfare. It's just not real. So when that veil comes down, what's fucking left? Speaking of military, by the way, didn't the military take an oath to uphold the Constitution? Where's the military at with this? Why is Elon Musk even remotely close to the government doing this kind of shit? Where's the military? How come he's not arrested? Like, how come the military's not stepping in and being like, oh, you guys are trying to overthrow the government. Yeah, we're not going to let you do that. Because the military makes an oath to office, not the people. Oh, right. They're not an actual military, right? They're just administrators. Martin Carvalho, good to see you. Lawnmower Man. Jeff, Dave, good to see you guys. Anemone, always a pleasure, Anemone. I fear you're getting me at my most dour today. Long Defiant writes, my daughters like Red Note. TikTok hacks my brain, so I avoid that style of media. Yeah, I understand that. I use TikTok myself, but like I don't trick myself into believing it's anything other than what it is, which is just like brain candy. Like it's really, really easy to get funneled into dumb bullshit on these apps. Like I just like you start scrolling and then all of a sudden 2 hours have gone by and you're like, what the hell happened? Lawnmower Man writes, Laura Ingraham did it years ago. Looked more like she slipped up. Musk planned it carefully, you can tell. Yeah, when Laura, for those who don't know, Laura Ingraham, I believe she's like a Fox News stooge, right? She did it real smooth. You go and find it online. Hers is just nice and smooth, right? Like she brings her hand up to her chest. She hits it, right? She hits the salute, nice and clean, but then transitions it into a wave, right? And so the plausible deniability is just like right there. That like it was a Nazi salute for like 0.1 seconds, and it was just like the hint of a pause before a wave. She nailed it. You could tell that she had practiced it a bunch. She didn't just like improv that shit. She didn't improv that shit. She knew exactly what she was doing and she did it. It was clean. Right? Super, super clean. And honestly, like I'll even go so far to say that if it turns out we all die and we go to heaven and I ask Laura Ingraham, "Hey Laura, was that a Nazi salute or were you just waving?" She's like, "Oh no, dude, I was just waving. I just came out all fucked up." I'd be like, "Oh yeah, all right." Right? I'd buy that. That's how clean it was. That it's just because of who she is that leans it in the Nazi direction. That's not what Elon did. Elon chambered that shit up. Click, click, bang. That's what he did. He chambered that shit up and he fired it twice. Right? Like this isn't some just like I'm walking and I'm doing a wave and oh it kind of came out Nazi a little bit. Oh well, wave at the people. Click bang, twice. Apocalypse Nowish, damn, that's worrying. Yeah, be worried. Like, be worried, dude. Like, look, I said at the beginning of the stream, and I'm going to say it over and over and over again, okay? We've been running on this premise. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. Start crying. Stop laughing. Turn off Joe Rogan. Turn off Shane Gillis. Turn off Dave Chappelle. Turn off Theo Vaughn. Turn off Tony Hinchcliffe. Turn them off. Turn off Jon Stewart. Turn them off. Stop listening to clowns. Stop listening to comedians. You're training yourself to go ha 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 while you're literally watching people getting rounded up with Nazi salutes. Start crying. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. Stop laughing. Cry. Look what the clowns have brought us. Right? Send in the clowns. Here they are. This is what they look like. Dave, good to see you. Lawnmower Man writes, I don't think I have a local John Brown gun club, unfortunately. Then it's you, bud. Jeff writes, I watched it. It wasn't a salute. He was say from my heart to you. Hand on his heart, waved it back to the crowd and again to the back. Bullshit. Just total bullshit. I'm just going to assume that this is like a myth. You've been here long enough, Jeff, that I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm just going to assume that this is like there's a word missing or something and you meant it mean something else. Because, like, it's a Nazi salute. Like, it's so obviously a Nazi salute. Long Defiant writes, when I watch TikTok, I'm literally not in control of myself. I can swipe for 30 minutes and wake up what's happening. It's too strong. Yeah. Look, I've said it over and over again. Like, I don't dive down into too many conspiracy theories, right? Like, I don't really buy in too hard on most of them. But there's one conspiracy theory that I absolutely believe in 100%, which is that the CIA uses the apps as a way to mind control people. I for sure believe that. Like, flickering lights, all the emotional, they grab hold of your emotions. I've seen people get hypnotized through screens. There's a magician that specializes in it. I'd show you the clip, but it gets my thing shut down. It gets my channel shut down when I do it. Copyright. No Nazis in the chat, okay? No Nazis in the chat. You gonna come in and say glory capitalism when there's literally Elon Musk doing a Nazi salute? No Nazis in the chat. Get fucked. Get completely fucked. Follow your leader. Yeah, the O/, we know what that is. No Nazis in the chat. No Nazis in the chat. You fucking losers. Follow your leader. Follow your fucking leader, you Nazis. Martin Carvalho writes, for every account they ban you on, we will make you another. You deserve to be heard. Yeah, I don't know how YouTube seems to be letting me skate by. And Twitch too. So I think that, like, for some reason, YouTube and Twitch are just, like, still, like, the hammer hasn't come down yet. Not so hard. Although, when the Ukraine war kicked off, the hammer came down for sure. The hammer came down for sure. TikTok has always been more volatile. Because, I mean, I think it's directly controlled by intelligence, so. Martin writes, the first time my Chinese friend WeChat called me and showed me how affordable and comfortable his life was, it was eye-opening. Yeah, it made me question everything. Yeah, we should have everything questioned. Right? Like, if these are the people who are in power, right? Like, the war on terror is enough for me. Like, the war on terror was enough for me to say, oh, this civilization, if you want to call it that, is irredeemable. But, like, the Gazan war, the Gazan genocide, rather, right? Any culture that leads to that action is a culture that you can successfully, you could just be like, oh, okay. Literally anything it says is wrong. Literally anything. That if any of the defenders of quote-unquote Western civilization and stand up and have an opinion on everything, take the opposite position and you will be correct. And how do I know? Because their logic leads to genocide. That they're wrong about everything. Literally everything. Dylan, CIA Burns, good to see you. Trump just destroyed the pretense of a free market by saying the USA should get half of TikTok if it's allowed to continue to operate. No, I mean, these guys are fascists. Fascists don't believe in a free market. Fascists believe in a strong and powerful state. Right? They believe in the state being merged with the corporate sector, and the corporate sector and the state being the same entity. Right? That's what fascists believe. Right? You can read all about it in the Principles of Fascism. Right? Written by Mussolini himself. Like, and I don't know. No, I know exactly why this happens. I know exactly why it's the case that fascism is obfuscated. That we're supposed to obfuscate it behind like, oh, the 14 signs of fascism and all this, like fascism and all this, and it like takes like a big circuitous look. Fascism is easy, right? You know what a theocracy is, right? It's the merger of church and state. Real easy, right? If the president is the pope or a bishop or a pastor, it's a theocracy, right? Well, if the president is a banker or some kind of corporate sector hack, right? It's fascism. It's the merger of corporate and state. And for some reason, when it comes to theocracy, we've got it on lock. We understand that instantly. We're just like, oh yeah, the theocracy. And it's just easy to say it. Yeah, it's a theocracy. Clean. But when it comes to fascism, well, no, I mean, there's Greece and there's this, well, that's Cronian. That's, you know, eat my cock. Like, just, I'm so done with it. Pog Froggy over on Twitch says, I feel like this whole thing could be fixed by simply asking Musk what he actually meant with that. If it was Heil or if it was a Roman salute or if he was giving his heart out. He has stated, he claims that it's been taken out of context. What's the exact phrase? I had it here. I had it here. No, he blames it on leftists and their dirty tricks. He says that they're accusing him of doing it, but he didn't mean it. But of course, he's the liar, right? If it was the case that he was taken out of context, if it was the case that he was, yeah, I didn't mean it, then why is he editing it out of his inauguration speech? Why is he editing it out? Why is he trying to memory hole it? Why is he trying to delete it? Right? Innocent mistake? No, he's hiding the evidence. Like, this guy's a Nazi. And if you don't believe me, just go on his Twitter feed. The guy, like, I don't know what evidence you need, okay? The guy has donated money to a far-right Nazi party in Germany. What do you need? Pog Froggy writes, why would he do it in the first place if he wanted to memory hole it, though? Because he doesn't actually care about you. He did it for his friends. You know, the oligarchy. He did it for the people that he actually gives a fuck about. Why? Because they're Nazis. Like, they want to do Nazi shit. Like, I've been saying it the entire time. Yasmi, you have Google. Google it. Jesus Christ. Like, don't derail my stream because you're too fucking lazy to go Google something. Go Google it. Jesus Christ. We are on the path to the mask is coming off. AFD. The AFD in Germany. The AFD, and of course I forget what the AFD stands for offhand. Somebody help me out. The AFD in Germany is a far right. They're like the most Nazi adjacent you've ever seen. Basically what they've done is they've taken all of the language and and all of the stuff, and they've skirted all of the rules, and they've essentially adopted all of the policies of the old Nazi party. Alternative for Deutschland, is it? I think that's right, Nilo. Good to see you, by the way, bud. What we are watching, okay? What we are watching is the mask coming off. And I've been saying it for years. Eventually, they will operate in the open. They want to operate in the open. Pog Froggy says, if they truly were Nazi, why would they have a rabbi speak at the inauguration, though? So, one of the things that Nazis do, and they do it on the regular, right? They do it with their dog whistles, right? It's called plausible deniability. So that gullible people who are living in a dream world, often La La Land, can point at one thing while they literally do Nazi salutes in front of you and literally go round people up in Chicago, which they're doing today. While they're literally doing Nazi shit directly in front of your eyes, you can be like, oh, but they had a rabbi. They had a rabbi. It's called plausible deniability. And also on top of that, side note, chances are good this rabbi is Zionists, right? And exactly, XD, Zionists and Nazis are besties. He was a Zionist rabbi. Game recognizes game. And yeah, co-opting shit is standard populist fascist behavior. But it's the same shit as dog whistling, right? It's the 1488 shit. It's the why am I blanking on some of the popular dog whistles? Just like symbols and signs and runes that they use. They have a whole secret language that they use with one another, so that they can always just be like, "Oh, you think that means that? Ha, that's just a coincidence." Ha 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 ha. And because most people are gullible, they'll go along with it. Daba says, so you're telling me if I have power and money, I can be racist, homophobic, kidnap children, Zionist? Yeah, there's no laws, dude. Like, there's no laws. Like, it's over, right? Like, the rule of law is gone. You don't have a constitution. It's over. It's finished. Pog Froggy says, define fascism. You seem to use it a lot. Okay. Fascism is easy, right? Like, you know what a theocracy is, right? I was just talking about this, like, literally, like 10 minutes ago. You know what a theocracy is, right? Right? Like, get it in your brain. What's a theocracy? Right? Church, state, merge. Right? Church, state, merge. Right? You understand that in your brain completely. So it's easy, no confusion, right? So chase away the fog, right? You can just like defogify all of this. It's not a confusing subject at all. You don't need to go deep at all. Church, state, theocracy. Easy. Okay, cool. Take out the church, right? Put in corporate state, put in the corporate power structure, put in a bank, right? Put in an oligarch, put in a billionaire, right? Business, rich business interests. Fascism, the merger of business and state. Corporate power merging with the state. That if you looked at your president and it was the Pope, you would have absolutely no fog in your brain at all. You would understand instantly. You would be like, this is a theocracy. There would be absolutely no trouble. Right? There would be no obfuscation. You wouldn't be sitting there being like, can you define a theocracy? you would immediately understand. Oh, the leader of the Anglican Church is the president. This is a theocracy. Oh, the leader of the president is an imam. This is a theocracy. You would understand it instantly, right? Well, if your prime minister or president is a banker or a Goldman Sachs executive or a real estate investor or like a tech bro, what do you got? Look, what do you got? So welcome to fascism. And I mean, and I also think it's fair to point out that, like, lots of people create a distinction between capitalism and fascism. I don't really. Like, seems to me like capitalism is when our victims are brown people abroad, and fascism is when the victims are white people at home. That seems to be the distinction. That if you are European settler colonialists invading a country, exterminating the First Nations people, enslaving the black population of Africa, and cleansing the land and erecting a new society there under a white supremacist rule, that's capitalism. But if the white folk turn on each other and fight amongst themselves, then it's fascism. That seems to be the rule. That if the white folks invade a Muslim nation, send death squads throughout the country, blow up their entire territory, steal all the resources, kidnap their children for medical experimentation, right? So spread chemical warfare all over the place, drop small-scale nuclear bombs, that's capitalism. But if two white tech bros get into a fist fight, that's fascism. That seems to be the rule. That seems to be how it actually works. Pog Froggy says, what about a world with capitalism with no state? Not possible. Capitalism requires a state. It requires the state. There's just no such thing. Like, it's a fairy tale to believe that you could do that. Like it's like a mental illness to think that you could do that. Because what would happen? Let's say you could snap your finger like Thanos, right? Thanos snap. The state is gone somehow, right? And let's be clear about what the state is. The state are the armed men who are willing to kill people on behalf of capital to protect private property rights. And let's say you could snap your finger and they'd all disappear. And the state would be gone. Just, and then it'd be like capitalism without the state. Literally the first thing that the capitalists would do is erect a state. Because you need a state. You have to have a state to protect capital. You must. It's definitionally the case. You simply cannot have capitalism without a state. It's not possible. It's like telling me, like, I held my breath while I breathed. Like, no, it's just an oxymoron. It cannot exist that way. And to think otherwise is just a fairy tale. I don't really spend too much time reading people who write fantasies. Like, I live in the real world where reality exists. Oh, yeah, the MAGA commies. Yeah, I'm sure they're pleased as punch right now. The comrade Kenny says, then corporations become the state? Yeah, you just invented Colombia? Correct. In the absence of the state imposing order, the corporations will. Yeah. Welcome to paramilitary death squads. Yeah, you're nailing it, dude. Absolutely. Austin, good to see you. I think Trotsky's definition of fascism is a good one. the merger of corporate power and the state brought on by the petty bourgeois, class non-conscious workers, and lumpen proletariat. Yeah, which kind of sounds like MAGA. Yep, correct. There's a reason you don't see fascists and MAGA in the same room. Lawnmower Man. That's why anarcho-capitalism is the dumbest shit of all time. Yeah, no, it's just a fairy tale. Libertarian is like this. Libertarian shit is just it's a fantasy, right? It's just a fantasy that clearly doesn't work, and it doesn't work for I tend not to pay too much attention to ideologies that can be destroyed by playing a single game of Monopoly, right? Like if you can diffuse an entire mode of thinking by playing a children's board game once, then you shouldn't put too much time or effort into it. Right? Sit down at the table with some friends, play one game of Monopoly. There's your libertarian fantasy. It's gone. Like get the fuck out of here with this shit. Anemone. Fully automated luxury gay space Marxist Leninist communism. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, Lawnmower Man, even sovereign citizen types are more respectable. Yeah, I think that's right. Like, yeah, at least we had like a king for like a couple thousand years, right? Or 1,000 years, right? At least the whole idea of like having a monarch, you're like, yeah, all right, we did that, right? It created societies, I guess. But the whole libertarian fantasy of just like, we'll all just do stuff and everything will be fine. Bump, bump, bump. Hull, good to see you, Hull. At the end of the day, they eluded the idiots into thinking that they were part of the club. As always, people are so senseless. Look, one of the things. Look, here's a hard pill to swallow. Okay, here's a hard bullet to bite on. There are a lot of fascists in the society. There's a lot of people who, when Elon Musk did this, they cheered. They cheered in the moment. They went on Twitter and they put up their little Nazi symbols, right? They're spreading it around. They're happy to do it. There's lots of Nazis in the society, more than you'd like. We outnumber them, and that's the God's honest truth. We outnumber them. But they have the money, and they've got the power. So, Pog Froggy, okay, Pog Froggy's writing some real dumb shit here. Let's go. Pog Froggy, I need you to understand you're catching me at like a real dour moment. We're in a downbeat kind of thing. I've been talking about this very thing for like 5 years, right? So the idea that corporations would replace the state with paramilitary death squads misunderstands both market incentives and the mechanisms of a stateless society. You're living in a fantasy world. You sound like a moron. Just like this isn't a debate. You sound like a little child. You sound like a little kid. You are not looking at reality. You are not living in reality, very obviously. You are living in a fantasy world that is disassociated with everything that we can observe. You are a flat earther in terms of your intellectual capacity. You are at flat earth level. Okay? Straight up, full stop. If you are actually trying to defend this position and you are actually trying to come forward with this idea, I'm telling you, the earth is not flat. And how do I know? Because that's exactly what the CIA does. That's exactly what the State Department does. That's exactly what capitalists do. And how do I know? They've done it over and 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 over again. The evidence is overwhelming. You're literally standing in front of me telling me that the earth is flat while we're orbiting the earth. So please, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up and get that fucking dumb-ass flat earther bullshit out of here. Get out of my chat. You're too stupid to talk to. You're too stupid to talk to. Shut up. No flat earther dumb shit in here. Fuck off. Moron. Stop reading everything you're reading. You're too stupid. You're a dumb person. Shut up. Your entire thought process can be disproven with a single game of Monopoly. Shut up. Fucking embarrassing. I know what we'll do. We'll get rid of the state. And then the guy who's doing a Nazi salute in front of us won't shoot me with a gun. Idiot. Holy fuck, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, if we just get rid of the state, then big, massive, multi-trillion-dollar corporations won't hand guns to people. What are you, a child? Yes, obviously. Like, that's a mental illness, man. That's a mental disorder. Like, what is an infantile disorder? Like, just get the fuck out of here with that dumbass child bullshit. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. No wonder you're like. No wonder the Nazis are taking over. You people are goddamn idiots. Generation Y me, good to see you. The Comrade Kenny. Comrade Kenny is like laying fire out in my chat, man. I love it. That being said, Canada technically doesn't exist as a country because the treaties Indigenous nations signed were a corporation because the state of Canada doesn't exist. Yeah, I mean, Canada was essentially erected by a fur trading company and a queen. Well, the queen is dead and the fur trading company is bankrupt. So, Comrade Kenny, Jesus, it's almost like people with a certain ideology don't have a broad knowledge of history or society. Yeah. No, it's just flat earther bullshit. Like, people want to believe in their little fantasy. Like, if I wanted to be generous, right? And I don't really want to be generous right now, but if I wanted to be generous, I would say that people looking at reality is hard. It hurts. It causes you physical and psychic damage. You take damage doing it. Most people do. Me and I think a lot of other people have the opposite as well, where if you don't look at it, it hurts. Right? It causes pain to not look at it and to not deal with it. But I do think that there are people that because they can't look at it, they try to come up with childish solutions. And because they refuse to actually look it in the eye and look at it for what it is, like, that guy is essentially trying to tell you that you can negotiate with Jason Voorhees. That's basically his pitch. That, if we just lock up all the machetes, then Jason Voorhees will stop killing people. Is basically his pitch. It just fundamentally misunderstands the character. It fundamentally misunderstands who Jason Voorhees is. Generation Y me with a $5 donation. I want to be generous. Keep fighting the good fight. Thank you, bud. I do appreciate it. God bless. I want to test something just in the moment. Let me know if you guys can hear this, okay? I've been having audio problems. Let me know if you can hear this.
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now.
Can you guys hear that? Did you hear that? It's like a little 10-second thing. Low sound, but okay. I can hear, but it's quiet. Desktop audio. Oh, you know what? Let's try that. The reason why I'm doing this right now is because I have to pee. So I'm going to put this on. Here is the first sign of resistance of any sort that I have seen from liberals at all. I suspect that she will be punished dramatically for doing this, but we'll see. So,
in the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches.
no, we've got a raid over on Twitch. Hopefully it's not a bunch of Nazis. We'll find out. Dave goes, I saw this clip this afternoon. You can see the face of Donald Trump was uncomfortable. Yeah, they don't know what to do about this, right? They don't know what to do about a person who's just calling for mercy and peace. They don't know what to do with that, right? And Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about like the church or any of that kind of stuff. He cares about the church as much as the Christians do, which is not at all, right? They don't give a fuck at all. They don't care about their Christ. Kairos Rev writes, and you're sending in the raid. Good to see you, man. Got 16 people over on Twitch right now. It's a big number for me. We're anti-fascist leftists here. Cool. Welcome aboard. Had a birthday stream for Kairos. He's a leftist. Wonderful. The Comrade Kennedy writes, it's also why defund the police cannot and will not ever work in our present society. Yeah. Like, no, the state requires, or capitalists require a strong and powerful state. Well, I'll tell you guys over on Twitch right now, if you want to join me, I'm streaming on YouTube. You can type in www.thecanadiancommie.com, right? It takes you straight to my YouTube. That's where all my videos and everything are posts. I do also live stream here on Twitch right at this time, but what you're looking at, that's what you're looking at. Thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for being here. You guys are all catching me in a real downbeat, a real dour moment, right? I'm sort of out of step with the zeitgeist, and I think the zeitgeist is, and I've really noticed it. You watch like Jon Stewart, and you watch like Hassan, and you watch all these guys, right? Even like left-leaning people and leftists who I'm like, yeah, I'll listen to them, right? And like Jimmy Dore, I'll listen to, right? I listen to these guys, and I'm just like, you all have this kind of like smirking, like, look, can you believe it? kind of tone. And I'm just fucking over it. And I just think it kind of boils down to the phrase, like, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And I think we've been laughing for way too long. I think it's time to start crying. I think it's time to see that we have to start crying. I think we have to see that we've got to actually start engaging with our empathy and with our emotions in a real and serious way instead of just like shrugging them off. Because like this shit's serious. Like, this is a serious moment. And it's going to get way crazier. It's going to get way worse. It's going to entrench. It's going to get very serious. And what we are experiencing right now in real time is right now you are watching the Nazism and the fascism on a device, and that will eventually manifest into your reality. And then you will be the one filming it to send it to someone else's device. And that's going to become common. And that there's going to be a merger. That right now there's an insulation. It's all just digital. Well, it's coming into your life, and it's coming fast. Generation Y me, this winter feels extra depressing. Yeah. Yeah, it does. I'm going to take this moment. I want to get into some Nazi apologetics, man. The Toronto Sun. We've always known the Toronto Sun is a far-right fascist magazine, right? We've always known. But this is like straight-up Nazi apologetics, right? And we've seen the power structure here in Canada do some Nazi apologetics in the past. Like when the Liberals applauded for a Nazi in Parliament in front of Zelensky, right? We all remember that, Hunka, right? They literally had a World War II veteran who fought against the Russians. Who do you think that is? That's a Nazi. Stand up in front of everybody, and they all applauded, right? And the media cover for that was, what a blunder. What a mistake. What an oversight. What a silly Billy 2x4 moment. Oh, goodness. What a sign of sheer incompetence to do something so silly, to not look into his background. And literally nobody in the media going, so they knew he was a Nazi, obviously. Right? They obviously knew. How could they not know? You're telling me that they had a guy stand up in front of a foreign dignitary, the president of a foreign country that we are funding in a war, and we had somebody stand up so that we could applaud them in front of that guy, and we didn't know who he was? You gotta be the dumbest person I've ever heard of in my life. You gotta be the silliest person alive. You gotta be the silliest person alive. And so this article is a continuation of that. People in my chat are calling for number draw all of a sudden. And of course, in the mix, I had forgotten. The great and powerful David Lynch has passed away. We used to watch David Lynch's number draw every day. When I was doing live streams more often, I was doing it regularly. It was a fun little moment. David Lynch, through the pandemic and then for a little while after the pandemic, every day he posted 2 videos. One was just his thoughts of the morning and him thinking about a song, which I tried to play the songs on my stream. Of course, I was a new streamer then. I didn't realize how stupid the copyright laws are, and they're moronic. They're the opposite of innovative. They're just the dumbest shit you've ever seen in your life. So I had to stop doing that, even though I thought it was a beautiful segment. But the second one was just him with a jar of ping pong balls with numbers written on it. And he would stand in front of me, and he'd be wearing a hat and like a brimmed hat and a pair of sunglasses. It was a straight shot. Time for today's number. And he'd take the jar, swirl the numbers. And he'd pull the ping pong ball out and he'd show it to the camera. And he'd go, 7 or 6. And people in his chat were keeping track of the numbers that he would draw. There was a tally. And just like David Lynch's life, it was surreal. It was odd. It was unusual. But it was beautiful in its simplicity. And yeah, I think you're right. Random number generator 1 to 10. Okay, everybody. Pick your number. Pick your number. Swirl the numbers. Pick a number between 1 and 10. Who's going to be the winner? We got some 8s. We got some 7s. We got some 4s. A 10, 2, 6, 1. Good array. Good array. We got somebody over on Twitch with an 8. Some 3s. A 4. Gonna let everybody get in. We got a 7 over on Twitch. Can't say there's a standout number right now. We got a couple of 3s, a couple of 5s. Got a 9. Filling in all the gaps. All right. I'm gonna pull the trigger. We're gonna go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, hold on. I gotta click here. And click. 5. Garden State with the win. Were you the only winner, Garden State? Nope. We had somebody here, Martin, also a winner. No, Long Defiant. So 10 is double 5. So that means that you are actually twice a winner. David Lynch. I got to do a deeper dive onto David Lynch stuff, man. We're not playing for nothing. We're playing for bragging rights. We're playing for a little reprieve from this. Twin Peaks. No spoilers, but the final season of Twin Peaks was actually like maybe the bravest creative decisions I've ever seen. Like just so everything, that final season of Twin Peaks was just like I'll give you no spoilers, but for those who don't know, Twin Peaks had like 2 seasons back in like the early 90s, late 80s. And then it got canceled on a cliffhanger. And then like literally 20 years later, they do the final season. And Lynch really sticks to his guns, really sticks to his creative guns in that final season, and does not fuck around, doesn't back off at all on his basic creative premises, which is don't explain it to the audience, let them figure it out. I've always said, like, I find myself watching movies now thinking to myself, Oh man, these guys needed to watch more Lynch, man. Inception was like that for me. I remember watching Inception and everybody around me was like, it was so confusing. I didn't understand. I was like, what are you talking about? They literally told you it. They explained it to you while it was happening. Inception would have been a much better movie if they had have eliminated Page's character. There's a character in Inception that exists only to be exposition, to just be like, who's going on? What's going on? And have people tell her, at the time, her. I'm struggling because it used to be Elaine Page and now it's what's his name now? Went through a transition, but at the time it was anyway Page. Their character is just there to be like, I don't understand, and to have somebody be like, we're stepping into the dream world and then we're going to go in and all this kind of stuff. Eliminate that character. Eliminate all of that expository dialogue. Eliminate all of it. Literally explain nothing outside of the absolute, like, barest bones. Like, the characters know what they're doing and the characters know what's going on. And have them go through the actions and talk what they need to do and all of that to the barest degree. Elliot, thank you, Generation Y, I appreciate it. Elliot Page. And the and have people watch Inception but don't explain a goddamn thing. And just let them struggle with it and let them puzzle it out and let them find out, like, oh, there's levels of the dream and they can come out of it, and then they've got all this, and then I feel like that, like, Lynch was all about having people walk through a maze and have people puzzle it out and let it stick in people's minds. Let them be confused by it. And I really admire that. It actually takes an enormous amount of bravery. Anytime I sit down to create anything or do anything creatively, the urge to make sure the audience knows. And he just was fearless in that way. Just like, let them be confused. Let them figure it out. And I think he understood that, like, if your art is true and if your art is firing and hitting it, it'll stick in their brain. It'll stick in their craw. That their brain will want to figure it out. And I really admire that in him. And that final season of Twin Peaks is really emblematic of that. Anyway. Donnie Darko's style, yeah, that one was a puzzle. Yeah, Donnie Darko was a brilliant film. I remember the first time I watched Donnie Darko, I immediately watched it again. I was so entranced by it. I was just like, I had to go through it again and break it down again. B over on Twitch. This might make you chuckle. Haven't heard much from Dan Penna since he wished us poor people a Merry Christmas. Fuck Dan Penna. The day that guy dies, the world will be a better place. Yeah, people didn't even have a discussion board for it. Yeah. Get wrecked. Oh, you watch, like, Mulholland Drive. You're like, what is that film about? What is happening in that film? It's great. JT writes, I love when I realize a director is taking me places I didn't expect, and suddenly I go, this is just wild, and sort of laugh with glee at how transformative it is. Yeah. Well, and the right wing kind of has grabbed a hold of that, right? Like, Jordan Peterson is that, right? He just creates a maze to sort of titillate and delight. And initially, it is kind of fun to engage with Peterson because you're like, oh, where's this going to go? And he's talking about these very esoteric concepts and all that kind of stuff. But then it just ends up being nothing, right? Like, and if you're going to put someone through a maze to lead them nowhere and to say nothing, Like, clean your room. Okay, cool. Thanks, bud. Like, yeah, gamer. My parents may have to help me with funding because unemployment. Yeah. Welcome to the new normal, dude. Like, I know it feels humiliating, right? I know it feels like you're a failure, but you are not a failure. Just because you couldn't stand in front of a tsunami and not be swept away, it doesn't make you a failure. Just be grateful, thank your family, don't become a burden on them, clean up, help around the house. Just respond love with love, and that'll be enough. Okay, I'm going to move on from the movie talk. I do want to actually get into this article. Warmington. Only in the minds of woke leftists was Musk's gesture a Nazi salute. What a loser this guy is. Are you kidding me? Yeah, my favorite was a video where they went to Germany and they just showed people the moment, and people were like, that's the Nazi salute. People in the streets of Germany were like, yeah, if you did that in Germany, you would be arrested. Like, you are, like, I don't care if the president of our country did it, you would be arrested. And especially if the president of the country did it. While the anti-Trump crowd smeared the world's richest man, Memini and Canadians' Jewish community called the allegations of him using a Heil Hitler salute nothing more than garbage. Jewish community is Zionists, of course, in this case. They never actually clarify that, right? When it's anti-Semites spewing Nazi hate, you never hear from leftist politicians or media. And of course, in this case, anti-Semites mean people who are criticizing Zionists. These guys are fucking Nazis, man. Like, just, it's pretty naked, eh? From swastikas to shooting at Jewish girls' schools, to people saying Hitler should have wiped every Jew off the planet, this era has seen an endless series of incidents of anti-Semitism that the woke power structure has failed to adequately do anything about. What are you talking about, my man? Like, here in Toronto, people go to jail for spreading around, like, anti-Semitic pamphlets. Like, what are you fucking talking about? But when often exuberant Elon Musk wishes his full heart to those who voted for Donald Trump to be president, suddenly they see a Nazi salute. The guy's even biting his lip. Like, when you see this face, do you immediately think to yourself, this guy's sending out his heart? Look at all the love. Look at the love. Right? It's just love here. Desperate times unleash desperate people who have lost so badly they have nothing left to show but their desperation. I mean, that's accurate. We are desperate. This makes us desperate. Do you not understand how we see this and it inspires desperation? It's not lost on the Jewish Zionist community that those suggesting Elon Musk use Sig Heil salutes on President Donald Trump's inauguration day have been among the most anti-Israel proponents, anti-Zionist proponents, since Hamas's October 7th slaughter. The ICC has literally sent arrest warrants out, dude. Like, this faux chest puffing, like, Nazism, right? We could just call this Nazism at this point. Like, literally, your institutions have sent out arrest warrants for Netanyahu and his cabinet for genocide. Like, those are the facts on the ground. It's both ironic and ludicrous that it's on Musk's own X platform that people are smearing the world's richest person by accusing him of delivering a Nazi salute at a victory ball on December 1st of Trump's presidency. It's not really an accusation. It's more of just like an observation. Hey, did you see the Nazi salute? Like, these people are genuinely asking you not to believe your eyes. Like, that's where we're at in the discourse. Don't believe your eyes. Believe me, Joe Warmington. It's such garbage, says Rabbi Mendel Zaltzman of the Jewish Russian Community Center of Ontario. I don't know anyone who has shown more support for the Zionist community than Elon Musk. Not an endorsement. And I love that they use this picture of him. Like, they're defending Elon Musk using this picture. Like, they gotta know that this picture makes him look like a total fucking loser, right? Right? Yeah. B is like, what the fuck is this article? Like, what? Yep. Like, you are beginning to come into the awareness, B, that your media, like, they're Nazis. Like, this is, at bare bones minimum, Nazi apologetics, right? Bare bone. Like, the smallest level. That's the best that you can get away with. It's Nazi sympathetics and Nazi... No, it's not Nazi sympathetics. Because that Nazi sympathetics would be like, sure, Elon Musk is a Nazi, but look at all the good things he's done. That's Nazi sympathetics. This is apologetics. This is like, well, okay, well, it looked like a Nazi thing, but and there must have been good reasons that he did it twice. That he just like chambered it and fired it, like boom, 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 boom. Mir Weinstein of Israel Now, Zionists, added, it's insulting to Jewish people that anybody would suggest that that was a Nazi salute. When it was nothing more than a man who supported Jewish people, Zionist people, clearly sending out love from his heart out to the good people in the room who helped President Trump win. Yes, he is sending out his heart to the people who helped President Trump win. This is how Nazis show their love. Right? Like, it makes sense that Zionists would see this and be like, oh, he was sending out his heart. You know, the way that we do. Ruth Ben Gott, historian of fascism here. That was a Nazi salute, and a very belligerent one, too. Like, even in their own article, right? Even in their own article, the words that they're using are all very, like, defensive, but all of the imagery that they're using is damning as it gets. Right? They got literally biting the lip straight up Sig Heil here. This like loser face. PBS News being like, yeah, I love this. Billionaire Elon Musk gave what appeared to be the softest possible language they could use. It looks as though it's possible that it appears he could have maybe done a fascist salute. Then they used this loser picture. Everybody made fun of this picture, dude. We all thought that this picture was the dumbest shit of life. Look at the contempt that Trump has on his face. Look at how dumb Elon Musk looks. When you watch the full clip, he doesn't look this stupid. Right? He looks stupid pretty generally. But this is like the worst frame they could have found. And they're using it in an article where they're trying to defend him. And then they've got Ruth Ben Gott here, basically being like, historian of fascism here. That's a Nazi salute. Just to be clear, you are defending a Heil Hitler salute that was performed and repeated for emphasis and clarity. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez posted to X. They can't help themselves. They got to go after AOC as often as they can. Professor Gad Sad, Zionist, replied, I spent several hours at Elon's house, and he knows that I'm Jewish Zionist. And I survived the ordeal because you're a Zionist, bro. You're pro-Nazism, right? Zionism and Nazism are bros, like they're buddies. It's like It's like telling me like, oh, I, a serial killer, went and hung out with another serial killer and we didn't kill each other, so we're good. Journalist Rachel Gilmore posted, to everyone saying he didn't mean it like that, please tell the neo-Nazi Telegram channels I monitor who are freaking the F out because they saw it exactly like that. Yeah, right? Like, that's the most damning indictment, is that, first of all, Elon is not apologizing or coming out or repudiating it, right? He's not saying that it wasn't meant to be a Nazi salute. He's not saying that I'm sorry that it was taken that way. He's not condemning the Nazism that it's inspiring. Like, that's the big one. That's the big one. That if he came out and said, I condemn the Nazis, I condemn people who are taking that to have been, I condemn all of that. He's not doing that. Why? Because he's a Nazi. He's happy that it's happening. He likes it. João Paulo, I'm not a communist. Good for you, bud. Welcome aboard. I'll just lay out the rules. I don't know if this is your first comment here, dude. I'll just lay out the rules as much as possible. Okay. 1, don't be a Nazi. 2, don't insult me. 3, don't be stupid. You'll do fine. PBS News posted, billionaire Elon Musk gave what appeared to be a fascist salute Monday. While American professor Ruth Ben Gotz posted, historian of fascism here, that was a Nazi salute. A very belligerent one, too. Newsweek magazine tweeted, the gesture has sparked widespread backlash online, with critics accusing Musk of mimicking a Nazi salute. It's not a mimic of a Nazi salute, it is a Nazi salute. In Canada, CBC described the incident as Musk pumping fists and then making what some critics said, the softest, most like some critics, not us, we didn't say it, objective journalism. What some critics said appeared to be, dude, the double soft language. And then making what some critics said appeared to be fascist salute as he thanked the crowd. See, he was being very thankful while he did it. But Saltzman said he watched the speech on television and thought it was nothing more than a man sending out his heart to the crowd. Like, you're either you're either an idiot or you're just like used to it. Where was the outrage from the liberal left regarding these Nazi salute from Hamas supporters? Are these the richest man in the world who has the ear of the president? Like, this is sort of my complaint about you, Toronto Sun, bringing this up. It's like, where was the outrage from the liberal left? It was equal to the impact. Oh, they shouldn't do that. What dumbasses? Oh, it's the richest man in the world who has regular meetings with the current president of the United States. Do you see the difference? Do you see the difference? Visegrad 24 sagely posted. Sagely. Jesus Christ. Where was the outrage from the liberal left regarding these Nazi salutes from Hamas supporters? Are they the richest person in the world? Weinstein, who has gone toe-to-toe with Nazi sympathizers, Ernst Zundel, watched it live as well and said it does not even come close to a Nazi salute. Dude, you gotta be kidding me. Like, if somebody stood in front of me and said that it didn't look like a Nazi salute to them, I literally will say, cool, I'm going to dismiss your opinion on every subject from now on. They'd be like, oh, I watched this great movie. I'd be like, cool, I'm going to avoid that movie. Every opinion you have, I will discard from now on. Because that, like, you clearly, just on a basic objective reality, like, the earth is not flat, climate change is real, Elon Musk threw a Nazi salute. Like, chambered it and fired, dude. Like, it's unfair to Musk to suggest that. Yeah, it would be unfair to suggest that, right? We're not suggesting it. We're telling you that it was a Nazi salute. It's not a suggestion. It's just an observation of objective fact. And if Elon Musk doesn't want it to be a Nazi salute, he can condemn the Nazis. He can condemn the Nazis who are supporting him. He can ban all of the people who are doing Nazi salutes on his media app. He can apologize, and he can donate like $100 million to like some anti-Nazi fund of some sort. He's not going to do any of that. Why? Because he wanted to do this. He likes that this is happening. None of it makes any sense unless it's a group of woke leftists wanting to rain on Trump's parade. Or it's regular people seeing the richest man in the world throwing Nazi salutes and being like, that's concerning. Paulo says, you are a globe earther. No idiots. Absolutely no idiots. You are too stupid to talk to. Fucking nonsense. Jesus Christ. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. I cannot believe. Like, the most embarrassing part about flat earthers is that they think they're smart. Like, that's the most embarrassing thing. We've literally been to space and taken pictures of it. You know what my favorite part about the flat earth thing is? Here's my absolute favorite part, and what has dead ass convinced me that these people have like brain damage of some kind. If it's a global conspiracy or a flat earth or a plane conspiracy, it's called a plane conspiracy, right? If it's a flat earth, like the earth is flat. The earth is flat, right? So, yeah, okay, yeah, Joe, right? The pictures are all fake, right? NASA, it's all a big conspiracy. Hundreds of thousands of people are on board with it. Countries that are literally in existential crisis and war with one another, who fight one another, who jockey in geopolitics at the largest level of politics, in an attempt to dominate one another and gain supremacy, all agree that the earth is round. Like, everybody is just like, so you're telling me that this is not only a conspiracy of NASA and the American government, it's also a conspiracy of the Russian space program and the Russian government, the Chinese space program and the Chinese government, the Brazilian space program, the Venezuelan space program, the Canadian space program, the European space programs, and all of their governments, including all of their parties, and all of the universities and all of the people in the universities, that at every single level, every single person has just bought into a lie that they know is a lie in order to achieve what? In order to achieve what? It's to keep you in the globe mindset, man. Shut up. Like, then, like, their argument from there is, like, literally, like, they're trying to manipulate you to keep you in a mind pattern kind of thing. People don't, like, think this way. You don't think this way. Your primary motivations in life are food and sex. Like, those are your primary motivators. Food, sex, money. The big three motivators are actually power, love, and vengeance. And the flat earth theory doesn't make sense in any of them. Who wins? Like, Hull writes, the fact that you're getting dragged into this flat earth conversation is hilarious. It's not a conversation. I think I'm just trying to distract myself from the horror of the world. And it's just so crazy. It's just so, like, definitionally insane that while I have a picture of the richest man in the world throwing a Nazi salute, while reading an article that's attempting to pretend like he's not doing that, someone has the gall and the audacity to come into the stream and be like, actually, oh, you're a globe earther, eh? No, I'm an earther. I live on Earth. Every other body that we can observe is a sphere. We've taken a picture of it. And the fact that these people exist just tells me that we're so doomed as a civilization. The fact that they're able to walk around and hold jobs and be taken seriously by anybody, and that we're not standing there being like, oh yeah, you gotta go over here, bro. Like, okay. Yeah, you don't just get to walk around. Because the hard reality about flat earthers is that if you can believe that, you can believe anything. If you can believe that the earth itself is flat, then you can believe anything you want about me. You can believe anything you want about your neighbor. You can believe anything you want about some politician. You can believe anything you want. No matter how damaging, no matter how dangerous, no matter how psychotic, you can believe it. And so every single person walking around saying, I think the earth is flat, grab them, put them over here, sit them down, and be like, so, when did you detach from reality? Why don't you moor yourself to reality? Because that's a crazy person. And that crazy person's going to vote for a crazy person. And that crazy person's going to do crazy things. Like, I don't know, throw a Nazi salute in front of all of us. Ha ha! Wild. Alter over on Twitch says, are there any conspiracy theories you like? There's one. Because here's the thing about conspiracy theories, okay? They all fall apart, right? They all fall apart, and they fall apart for the exact same reasons over and over and over again, right? The conspiracy is too big, there's too many people involved, and there's no motivation. Like, there's no motivation for the flat earth. Doesn't make any goddamn sense, right? The faked moon landing is a good one. There's just like no motivation for it. Like, in order to effectively fake the moon landing, you would have to do the moon landing, right? Like, the Russians are watching, right? If you don't actually do a moon landing, the Russians are going to be like, you didn't do it. They're just going to say you didn't do it. Right? And moreover, you can like just point a telescope at the moon and see the shit they left on the moon. You're like, oh, okay. There is one conspiracy theory, because the difference between a conspiracy theory and history is evidence. Right? And there's one that I will absolutely entertain because I legit think it's happening. But of course it's not popular, because that's not how conspiracy theories work. But it's that apps like TikTok and Facebook and all of these things, like anything that you could do this to, anything that you're like scrolling like this, these things are absolutely hypnotizing us. You can be hypnotized. You can be hypnotized through a screen. And I absolutely believe, for sure, that the CIA is using these apps in order to hypnotize people and incept trigger words inside of their consciousness. I for sure believe that. Like, I have seen magicians hypnotize people through screens. They know how to do it. It can be done. It has been done. We have the evidence of it. The idea that the CIA, who, because of the Church Commission, we know absolutely was investigating mind control and was absolutely investigating how to mind control people in the populace, create sleeper agents. Absolutely 100% was doing that. The idea that they're not using these digital apps that we all stare at, the idea that they're not at least trying to use these apps in order to incept us and mind control us and put trigger words inside of us, and we can see evidence of it. If you say to people in the society, if you poll people, hey, do you think we should give money to help poor people out of their conditions? Right? Do you think we should give money to the poor? 70% of the populace says yes. 30% say no. Makes sense. About 30% of the society is fascist. Just nakedly. If you say, should we provide welfare, which what is welfare? It's giving money to the poor. Suddenly, 70% of the society says no. It inverts, it flips. And we can see that over and over again, right? If you describe what it is to the person, 70% say yes. But if you say communism or socialism, it flips. To me, that is a phenomenon. Where is that phenomenon coming from? For sure. Now, do I have the document? Do I have the smoking gun? Do I have the haha, here it is? No. But we haven't done a Church Commission on the CIA for 50 years. We don't know what they're doing. We have no idea what happens to the money we give them. They're a black box. The last time we even did any investigation on them at all was because of the torture program from the War on Terror. Right? Back in like the 90s. So it's been at least 20 years since anyone has gone into the CIA and been like, what are you guys doing here? It's been 20 years. The entire Obama administration. Trump the first, Biden, Trump the second. Nobody's even gone in there. And I bet, absolutely, I bet that if we did a Church Commission on the CIA, which, by the way, we should absolutely do a Church Commission on these guys, that's exactly what we would find. That's exactly what we would find. Mystic Werewolf, good to see you, my man. Conspiracy theorists, moon landing is CGI. Do these morons know how bad CGI was in the 60s, the 70s, or the 80s? The most convincing moon landing related conspiracy theory that if it turned out to be true, I'd be like, huh, okay, all right. Is that they did do the moon landing because they had to, right? But that the footage is fake. That is actually, there's something to that. There's something there that I can believe. That all of the audio is accurate. We have the audio transmissions of them actually doing all of the stuff. And they likely did all of the stuff that they did, right? The golf shot and the planting of the flag and all of that. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, like all of that kind of stuff, right? Completely, for sure they did it all. But then I also think they faked the footage. Or if it turned out to be the case that they faked the footage, I would be like, oh yeah, okay, cool. I wouldn't be shocked by it at all. And I feel like that's, like, the more I think about that idea, the more I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of nice, right? Like there's something kind of like almost wholesome about it, where it's like, oh, they just wanted to put a picture on it. They just wanted to make sure that we could all see it. And they wanted to have, sure, it's a propaganda piece, and it's like obviously nation building, and it's obviously the space race and fuck the Soviets and all of that. But at the same time, it's like bringing it in, and it's like it is actually a unifying project. It's like kind of like oddly thoughtful, you know? That like, why don't we fake this, and we'll present it with the audio, and it'll really and put it in people's minds, and like be a real keystone moment, not just for us but for humanity. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not offended by that. Like, if all they had done is put the word reenactment in the bottom right hand corner, everybody would have just been like, oh, okay, well, that looks so real. But then if it turns out that that's the truth, if it's just straight up like, no, they just had the footage, they did it, it's fine, I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. So it's one of those things where I'm fine either way. I don't think it's like a big conspiracy. Like, I don't think it's like a big, like, this reshapes the way that we think about it. It doesn't reshape anything to me, right? In both cases, they land on the moon. In both cases, they did exactly what they said they did. In both cases, those boys came home, right? It's just, is the footage real? And I could be convinced it isn't, right? I could be convinced that Stanley Kubrick filmed it on a Hollywood stage. I can be convinced of all that. That's fine. Right? Doesn't ruin anything for me. So that's my other, like, moon landing related conspiracy theory. JT writes, the fact that flat earth leaders are going on trips and converting to, yeah, and they'll still hold on. Like, look, with the flat earth thing, it's just the evidence is so overwhelming and the idea is too stupid. Right? Like, they're just, and like, I can respect and understand someone being a flat earther for like a day, right? Like, I could really get somebody like getting on the internet and like reading a bunch of flat earth bullshit and being like, oh, these guys are onto something. It falls apart the minute it's challenged. Like, it just falls apart. Like, it's at like the crucial linchpin moments, right? And like I've said it several times already, so I don't want to waste any more time. But it's just like, who wins? Like, where's the winner? Right? At least with the conspiracy theory of like they faked the moon landing, there's a winner, right? So it's got like some truck. It's like, yeah, they wanted to do it. They wanted to win, so they cheated. It's like, oh, all right, I see where you're coming from. Mystic writes, we can without supporting batshit countries like Russia or China or North Korea. That's where I don't agree with you. Oh, what are we talking about? We're saying something else? I gotta tell you, dude, like, describing China as a batshit country, that's a wild position. Like, I just think you don't know what you're talking about. Like, pretty straightforwardly, right? Oh, giving money to the poor? China's not poor. Russia's not poor. Like, North Korea is fairly poor, but that's because we blew them up, right? So I don't really know where, like, this is kind of what I'm talking about, Mystic. I just don't think you know what you're talking about when it comes to this subject. When it comes to the subject of Russia and China, I just think you have an image in your mind of what these countries are like and what they are. And I'm really telling you that your image of what these countries are is wrong. And it's wrong just on like the basic fundamental like kind of level. No. Okay, look, this is okay. Mystic, you want to challenge me? Right? You want to challenge me in North Korea? No, North Korea is poor because of their isolation and nationalism stance. So what you are engaging in is what I like to call war blindness, right? It's just straight up blinders on. We're done thinking, right? We're just going to follow the propaganda line, whatever the CIA has to say, right? Like, the Korean War happened, right? You know about the Korean War, right? We're aware of what the Korean War was, right? We understand, like, basic 8th grade history in regards to Korea. We know what happened there. We understand the subject. Because if you don't, it makes it very, like, difficult for me to take you seriously. Like, during the Korean War, we leveled Korea, right? We leveled it. Like, it wasn't a conflagration. It wasn't a tiff, right? Give me a second here, guys. My thing decided to reset itself. My Twitch chat decided to reset itself. Sorry, Twitch chat, if you're saying anything to me right now. I'm not seeing it because my computer decided to reset itself. I don't really understand why. It's been doing that recently. I think this thing's getting old, is what's going on. Like, this happens 1950 to 1953, right? We destroyed every piece of infrastructure that existed in Korea at that time. Everything. We killed 20% of the population of Korea. Yeah, Mystic, you're hitting a wall because now you're just arguing with reality. Right? Like, you're entering flat earth territory here. Like, did the Korean War happen or not? Did we level Korea to the ground, yes or no? I just need you to establish that you understand that events happen and that reality exists. Because not understanding, like, the very basic concept of war. See, again, this comment, it happened in the 50s, people responsible for that are long gone. That really tells me that you don't understand the subject on a very basic level. In 1950, that's my dad. Like, if my dad had have been in Korea, that would be my dad. I'd be talking to him and he'd be like, yeah, they came and they destroyed all our buildings. They destroyed our dams. They destroyed our agriculture. They murdered 20% of us. 1 in 5. Right? Like, the next time you're in a room with 5 people, just imagine one of them is gone. Like, happened so long ago? What are you talking about? It's literally my father. It's within living memory. What are you talking about? Like, that's embarrassing, my man. Like, and you need to hear that. That is embarrassing. It is an embarrassing thing to say, oh, that happened so long ago, when it's within living memory. Within living memory, we carpet bombed the country to rubble and murdered 20% of the population, and people are alive today who experienced it. Like, grab hold of reality. Put your feet on the ground. Exist in a real space that exists. Because right now you're just living in a fairy tale land. And after they destroyed the country, reduced it to rubble, murdered people's family members, people's brothers and sisters, after they did all that, they just left. They just fucking left. They just said, bye, peace out. And China and Russia didn't launch a big rebuilding effort in North Korea, the unoccupied territory of Korea, because they were looking out for their own skin. The Americans were threatening to drop nuclear bombs on China. So many of the agreements that the Americans made with China were based on the idea that they don't help North Korea. Yeah, Mystic, you want to just jump over to some other subject now, right? And I'm just not interested. Because you want to pretend like reality doesn't exist. And you want to have a conversation in your comfort zone, in your little cozy spot, where you get to ignore the fact, like the material reality and the material conditions of what North Korea has actually experienced. Right? You just want to live in sort of this fantasy level. But I'll say it. If there are these human rights violations, provide evidence. And the CIA is not evidence. That's Radio Free Asia, right? That's people like Adrian Zenz, right? Like the National Endowment for Democracy, CIA cutout, right? The CIA is not evidence. And until you accept like the basic rudimentary history, but look, Mystic, it makes it very difficult for me to take you seriously because you refuse to acknowledge the basic rudimentary history. Like, you want to talk about propaganda, but you ignore history. Like, you ignore the reality. Like, you want to have a propaganda conversation? I don't trust you when it comes to 1 + 1 = 2, my man. Like, you want to talk about the abstract, esoteric nature of propaganda? You want to have a conversation about the humanities? Well, show me that you can put 2 and 2 together. Because you can't. Right? Like, you want to have a conversation as if we're peers and equals, and we're not. And we're not because you refuse to acknowledge reality. Very simply. So, yeah, I'm not interested in getting into a propaganda conversation with you because propaganda is a much more esoteric subject. And if you're going to unmoor yourself from the material reality and the material conditions of what's actually going on in the world, then you can believe whatever you like. And you do. So in that way, you're not too much different than a flat earther. So I'm going to move on from this conversation. And if you were wise, you would too. Do some reading. Stop wasting my time. Yeah, literally ignores the whole war historical fact. Like, no consequences from the war could manifest. Yeah. Like, we straight up know that people transmit stress and trauma through their genes. Like, this is a well-documented phenomenon. The most accepted version of this that we've seen is the trauma from the Holocaust being passed down to modern Jews. That's like a even someone like Ben Shapiro accepts that's the truth. That people who experience mass trauma pass the trauma down to their children through their genes, genetically. And you're trying to tell me that the Korean War, so long ago, forget about it. Within living memory, it happened after the Holocaust. Embarrassing. Just embarrassing. So, yeah, I'm not interested in your opinion when it comes to propaganda. Oh, Alter says, that was a wonderful clip of Benny getting owned. I think that you're talking about the clip in which someone stood up in front of Ben Shapiro and his little weird cult that he's got going on and pointed that out, that Jewish trauma, and of course, Ben Shapiro claims to be a Jew, so he's sympathetic towards Jews and Zionists generally. And so he agreed to it. And then the guy basically just said, so if it transmits genetically from Jew to Jew, shouldn't the same thing be true of a person who experienced slavery? And everybody booed, and then Ben Shapiro screamed him down. It was just like an embarrassing moment for Ben Shapiro because it really revealed his total racism. No, Mystic, I'm asking you to provide evidence for that claim, but you have unmoored yourself from reality. So I think I'm pretty happy with this conversation. We're just going to put you in timeout. Next time I'm just going to ban you, dude. What's the third rule? Don't be stupid. You're being very stupid. And I'm out of patience. Like, go read something. Provide evidence for your claims. Stop being a fucking moron. It wasn't really a banning. It was a timeout. Mystic's been around for a while. And he's just a kid. So he's like trying, but he keeps talking like he knows things. But he's really showing me how stupid he is. Like, he's just getting stupid. Like, you sort of hope that he's going to get smarter as time goes on, but that's not the case. He's just getting stupider. B writes, it's a shame stupidity isn't painful. It is painful in hindsight. It is painful in hindsight. That you ever have that moment when you're just standing there and then all of a sudden your brain goes, hey, remember when you were 13? Here, I'll tell you, here, confession time. So me and my buddies, we're 14, 15. And we all get it into our heads that we are going to start like Magic the Gathering card shop. And we all come together and we start shopping around for like Magic cards to pick up. And we end up at this guy's house and he's got a collection and we're like going through the collection, but it's all just garbage. It's just commons. And he wants to sell the whole thing for $400. $400. It was a lot of cards. It was a lot of cards. And we were going through it, and for some reason, we agreed to it. And I'm pretty foggy on how that conversation actually happened. I suspect that I sort of pushed forward on it because I was the son of like a fairly wealthy man at that time, considered wealthy for my small town. Like, not rich, but just like, you know, we were doing pretty well. And so I didn't really have an understanding of what money was. And like the whole thing fell apart. And we left one of my friends with like the bag. He ended up with the cards. I forget how the money fell out, but it was stupid. The whole thing was stupid. Just stupidity on stupidity. And I definitely feel like I share the lion's share of the blame. Like I definitely don't feel like I got the short end of the stick. I think that one of my friends definitely got the short end of the stick. For sure. And now when I like play card games, that memory bubbles up and just goes, and I go, oh my God. And it's just stupid. It's just a time where I was stupid and thoughtless and even a little cruel, frankly. And really, if I was in that situation again, I would have been like, nah, these cards are nothing. We're not going to spend our money on this. And I just would have walked away from it right then before we spent any money. Oh yeah, we pooled our money. And so like I lost my money on it too. But because I was like kind of a rich kid, like a rich kid, I didn't really care about losing the money, right? Whereas my other friends weren't as wealthy or well off. And like they lost their money. And it's like, that's what it is. I just remember walking away from the whole thing just being like, oh well. And I like look back and I'm like, you fucking idiot. You dumbass. And so that causes me pain. Every time I think about it, and I think it pops up in my head often enough. Anytime I play Magic the Gathering, anytime I play like any kind of card game, this little thing goes like, hey, remember that time you were a total fucking dumbass? And then of course that all connects to like, you know, the thing that happens when you're a kid and you like, you lose your high school friends. You all move away and you blow up and all that kind of stuff. And then I end up kind of sitting here being like, oh boy, I hope that's not how they think of me. I hope that when they think of me, they don't think of me as that. Because when I think of them, I'm like, of course I think of the fights we had and the negative moments, sure. But that's not, I don't care. You know what I mean? I think back on them quite fondly. And I hope that they think of me in the same way. Yeah. But the thing that I have always said to myself is that feeling that pain, you should view it as a positive. Because it means that you have grown. It means that you aren't the person you were before. It means that you would have done things differently if you knew better. But how could you have? You need to make mistakes. You need to have done the mistake in the first place in order to have gotten better. And so that pain is a sign of improvement. And you should bear it. And, and another tip. This is actually kind of a cool tip. You can incept yourself. Because your brain doesn't remember the memory. You only remember the you only remember the last time you remembered it. So you can incept something with, and it doesn't need to be logical. Like you can literally like, the next time you have a bad memory that like gives you any kind of pain, you can literally just put a clown there going anything that makes you smile or giggle. And then the next time you remember it, this clown will come along with it. And you can strengthen the clown. And that's why forgiveness is so powerful. That's why forgiveness is so powerful. Because forgiveness incepts your memories and incepts your thoughts. And so that memory can instead of it being this sharp point of anger, it can become and blossom into something new and strengthen a bond. And that's why apologizing and forgiveness is so powerful and important, because it incepts you. Joe, did you finish the article? No, I didn't finish the article. Back to this goddamn article. Joe Warmington. Only the minds of woke leftists will acknowledge that Elon Musk 100% threw a Nazi salute. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh tried to do the same sort of thing, tying this made-up scandal to Canada's opposition leader. Pierre Poilievre was asked, do you accept the endorsement of Elon Musk? And this was very telling, Singh told a crowd. He said, Musk is a great guy. Even with the Nazi sign, he has accepted the endorsement. And of course, they're trying to use it's Joe Warmington today. You see the difference, Joe? Like, you see the difference? Hold on, let's get the picture right. Right? You see the difference? Right? You see the difference? Now, what? How far can I get before it actually does become the straight up Nazi salute? Let's get this thumb. How? No. See, even here I'm safe. Right? We're flirting with it. But even here, we're pretty okay. Right? If somebody took a clip of this, nobody would be like, that's the Nazi salute. Right? Nobody except Joe Warmington. Right? There's a difference. Yeah, this is one of the weak defenses they're throwing out. They're like showing pictures of Obama and Kamala and even what's her name? The white lady who was running in 2016. I forget her name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But it's always like this. It's always like them going like this or like that or something like that, right? No, not Clinton, the other one. Oh, yeah, okay, dude. Now you're permanently banned. That's extra stupid, dude. You're permanently banned now, dude. Bye. I hope it was worth it, dude. We didn't read your comment. We're not going to read your comment. You're too stupid to talk to. Get the fuck out of here. Grow up a little. Like, you're literally engaging in genocide apologetia while demanding that I prove something with no evidence. Like, you're a baby. Get the fuck out of here. Too much stupidity today, dude. That's what this has unleashed, right? Like, it just empowers the stupidity. No. Here's the problem, Joe. Like, children are like this, right? Like this, and it's totally natural. It's totally natural. Children are like this. Okay? When you are born, you immediately believe that your parents are infallible gods. You just do. They are powerful. They're the strongest force in your life. My dad can beat up your dad. They might as well be Zeus and Poseidon, Thor. And that logic continues outward. Continues in your little community. It continues in your town. It continues in your county. It continues in your state. It continues in your country. It just continues that way. Right? That's what is nationalism. The idea that my place is the best place. It's just childish. But it makes sense that it would exist in a reality that is survival based. It makes sense that you would be highly defensive of your tribe. It makes sense that you would be highly defensive of your country. It makes sense that you would be highly defensive of your family. It makes sense. But it's childish. That growing up means realizing that your parents are just people, right? And the natural progression is that you realize that they're not gods, and so you demonize them. And you act like they are devils. And then as you go on and as you grow up, you even out and go, oh, they're just normal people who are also caught in this just zeitgeist of ridiculousness. The realization that the experiences that you are having and the uncertainty and the fear and the angst and the struggle that you're experiencing, your parents are also experiencing. Your friends are also experiencing. Your teachers are also experiencing. Your politicians, your judges are also experiencing. That's empathy. That's how empathy comes in. And then once you have that empathy, once you have that, you can start to look at other countries and other places. And instead of saying, oh, look at all the bad, negative things, demonize, 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 you can say, okay, so they've done some bad stuff. We've done some bad stuff. Who are these people? What do they have to say? What do they think? What do they do? And that's how you actually get to be an adult. And that's how you actually stabilize yourself in the world. And that's how you can actually look at geopolitics and be like, oh, who are these people? What did they say? What did they think? What did they do? Wow, this event is really extreme. What happened? Right? What a child says is, they did a bad thing, they're bad people. That's what a child says. An adult says, they did a bad thing. What happened? What are the circumstances? What are the events that occurred? What's the lead up? And even if you finally get to the end of that exploration and you see, okay, yeah, they are at fault. They are wrong. And you can reach that conclusion. Most of the time it's like, they're wrong, but pretty intense circumstances. Like, ooh. Like, China has never done anything like Germany. Right? Like, Russia never did anything like fucking Germany did. China and Russia has never done anything like America has ever done. Like, when did China or Russia erect a slave state? When did that ever happen? But if you want to be a child, then you could just be a child. And so, Joe, to answer this question, so he was just here to what? Project his cult-like mentality onto us. Children don't like it when you challenge their father. Right? No child wants to hear that their dad sucks. And every child leaps to the defense of the family unit. No matter what. And so a guy like Mystic is caught as many people are, in the concept of manifest destiny and the concept of white supremacy. That you can get away from, you can believe of yourself that you are not a racist, or that you can say of yourself, I don't want to be a racist, while still embodying the mindset of supremacy and having a supremacist worldview. And the supremacist worldview demands supremacy. America must be the best. It must be the best. It's a hierarchy upon which we stand, the top of. And so if somebody stands up and says, no, China and Russia and North Korea and a lot of other countries actually have some interesting stuff going on and some interesting ideas and interesting history. And they have their own positions and their own kind of stuff. That is offensive to those who are embroiled in supremacy. That if you are a supremacist, the idea that some foreign nation full of non-white people could even be your peer is offensive. Forget about, because in their idea, there is no such thing as a peer. There is no such thing as a peer. There is only the dominator and the oppressed. By definition. There's only one number one. Sweetleaf says, don't see many black people in China. So? I don't know what to make of your comments, Sweetleaf. So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt because you've been around for a little bit. Like, China did not have a big slave trade. Certainly not in the modern era. Certainly not since the communists took over. So, like, I'm absolutely sure that you would find slave trade in China at some point, for sure. I just haven't done the big research on that. Well, China's always been very insular. Like, China has a different sort of, they still have a kind of supremacist view of themselves, because I think that's like pretty normal for countries to fall into this for exactly the reasons I just said. It's like just kind of like we're children. We start as children and we have to grow up. And the like America's position has been, we're the best, and so we're going to make you like us. They have that kind of supremacist view, right? We're the best, and so we're going to make you like us, like the Borg. We're going to assimilate, right? Whereas the Chinese position is, we're the best, so stay the fuck away from us. Don't come over here. We got enough people. We got enough problems. Don't come over here. It's always kind of been China's position. We got somebody in the Twitch chat named Human. That's, I love it. I love it. Alter Boy says, it's honestly crazy that Europe colonized China after the Opium Wars and didn't bring chattel slavery over. They didn't need to bring it over. The Chinese people were the slaves. They enslaved the Chinese. XD says, yeah, they didn't import a ton of black slaves in the 1800s. Okay, we got to finish this damn article. This stupid, annoying article. Yeah, this is exactly what I was just talking about. Elon Musk, the legacy media is pure propaganda. You are the media now. Can someone direct me to the articles where the media is at outrage over this? Can't find any. And then you go and watch the clips, and it's literally them just being like, except they've paused it at exactly the moment. Right? Elon Musk literally threw this, dude. Like, click bang. Like, it was a Nazi salute. He helps the Jewish community here in the Greater Toronto area too, said Weinstein. In fact, I give him credit for stopping a planned terrorism conference, probably just Palestinians, right? Planned for Mississauga because he posted to X about it and let people know how troublesome it was. So your fellow Nazi friend, you as a Zionist, narked on an organization of free Palestinian a free Palestinian movement, and you and your Nazi buddies and Zionist buddies showed up and broke it up. And for that, Weinstein and Zaltzman salute Elon Musk. Yeah, we know exactly what salute you gave to Elon Musk. Like, we're well aware of what salute you gave Elon Musk. Dame Nanton. I don't know if I've ever seen you here, Dame. This is the equivalent of shaving your mustache to quote-unquote look like a Hitler mustache, but blaming your razors when people confront you about it. JT writes, I'm going to bet Trump does the gesture at some point too. I mean, the goal is to be open. That's the goal. The goal is to be able to operate openly. And the Jib Jabby, good to see you, my man. Thank you so much for your comment, but I always appreciate it when you just pop in and say hello, Jib Jabby. Bless your heart. And the yeah, the goal is to be open. That the thing that I have been thinking of and saying is like, it really does come down to the military, right? It comes down to how the military falls on it. Because, like, if they start being openly Nazi on the political level, right? Like, I don't think the military is going to tolerate that, right? Like, military men and veterans went overseas and fought and died to kill Nazis. We still have like a pretty robust, like, Inglourious Basterds is a popular film, right? Like, killing Nazis is like, there's a fairly popular character in media today, GI Robot, who's just constantly like, I can't wait until we kill Nazis. Wolfenstein is a popular game franchise. Maddie Sway says, hello, this is Alter Boy from Twitch. Thought I'd check out the YouTube stream. Good to see you, Maddie. Zapston, good to see you too. As a European, I'm genuinely stunned about what's going on in the US. Yeah, tell me about it, my man. I've been calling it for years. I have to acknowledge, and I have to admit, this was stunning to see. This was really stunning to see. Dame Nanton asks, I think in good faith, according to Vlad, the war in Ukraine was supposed to flush Nazis from Ukraine. Isn't Vladimir Zelensky Jewish? So that's actually a much more complicated question than I think that I don't know that you think. Let me see if I can just give you the Cliff's Notes. Okay? Vladimir Zelensky. So in 2014, there was a coup in Ukraine, right? The United States funded neo-Nazis and worked with the far right within Ukraine to coup the government of Ukraine. You can listen to Jeffrey Sachs talk about it. You can listen to John Mearsheimer talk about it. The coup in Ukraine happened exactly the same way that all American coups happen. Fund the far right to overthrow the government on behalf of capital. So the coup occurs. They oust the pro-Russian leadership and install a new leader. He lasts a term, and then they hold elections. Okay? In the period of time that he was in power, of course I'm blanking on his name. It's like Popovich or something like this. Blah, 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 blah. He, along with NATO, essentially integrate the Nazis that they funded into the military and into the political apparatus called the Azov Battalion. Okay? So NATO is directly funding Nazis, and they go and fight a war in the Donbass region. You can look it up. Just type the Donbass War into Google. It's easy. The Donbass War. War in Donbass. Wikipedia. Right? And so these Nazis, the Azov Battalion, go start a war in the Donbass region, which is in the eastern section. Let's just do the whole thing. So this is the Donbass region right here. This little Donetsk is like the center of it. Russian border, right here. When the coup happens, Russia seizes Crimea. There's a Russian military base on there, and it just flips over to the Russian side. The war in the Donbass happens as the Nazis come over, and they bomb the shit out of it. There's a great documentary called Ukraine on Fire that Oliver Stone, of all people, made. I highly advise everybody look it up. There's lots of really great footage in there. So the war in the Donbass happens. The Americans say, okay, Ukraine needs to have elections to continue the pretense of democracy, right? NATO is directly funding the military, which has been taken over by Nazis, right? They're funding the Azov Battalion. So they hold elections. To Zelensky's credit, he runs on a platform of ending the war in Donbass. That's his platform. He ran on a platform of peace, and near as anyone can tell, he was genuine about that. He believed it. Even more than that, when he was elected, he went to the front line of Donbass. We have footage and photos of him doing this. He went to the front line and he told them to pull back. He told them to stop fighting. And they said, go fuck yourselves. We don't answer to you. And in fact, if you keep pushing that button, we'll shoot you in the back. And so Zelensky goes, oh fuck, I'm not in control of this. I'm the elected president, but that position no longer has any power here. Because power extends from the end of a barrel of a gun. And from that moment, Zelensky has essentially been leading the country with a gun in his back. And he's essentially just the face man of this conflict. And anytime he has shown any kind of wavering, anytime he's shown any kind of willingness to negotiate or anything like that, someone like Boris Johnson shows up and basically tells him, if you do that, we'll kill your family. Like, I think Zelensky's in way over his head. I don't think that he's like a Nazi collaborator. But I just think he's trapped. Like, he's just stuck in this position and he has no escape route. The people he's in bed with, NATO, are sociopathic, mass murdering psychopaths. And they will kill him. Right? If he doesn't play ball. And so what's his role in all of this? His role is to be the hero of Ukraine. We need more support. We need to keep fighting. Rah, 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 rah. Let's go. Ukraine. The evil dictator Putin is invading us. Yeah, we have to fight. Stand with Ukraine. Slava Ukraine. That's his role. He's essentially a cheerleader. He's a clown. He's a comedian. And my feeling is that at the end of everything, he's just going to end up with a bullet in his back. Because there's absolutely no way the Ukraine war resolves itself with a victory for Ukraine. It's just not possible. And so to kind of land the point, Zelensky's Jewishness is irrelevant to the conversation. He's not in control of the situation. He has no actual power. The military has the power because the military is who NATO is funding and who NATO is organizing with. The political apparatus of Ukraine since the coup was always illusionary, and now Zelensky isn't even holding elections. So the whole idea of a democratic system within Ukraine is off the table completely. It's a straight up military dictatorship at this point. But technically the military dictator is Zelensky, but Zelensky has Nazi rifles in his back, funded heavily by NATO. So that's sort of the rundown with that. That the country is primarily run by neo-fascists and neo-Nazis who are backed by NATO. Zelensky is just sort of a side character, right? You've just had a wag the dog experience with him. You thought that he was the face. You thought that he was the king, right? He's the jester. He's not the king at all. Somebody like Andrei Beletsky has way more power than Zelensky. Way more power than Zelensky. And Andrei Beletsky is the fellow who founded the Azov Battalion. And I would say that if anybody is quote unquote in control in Ukraine, it's probably Beletsky, not Zelensky. But really, the people who have actual power in Ukraine is NATO. Like, very, very, very clearly. Like, if NATO wanted that war to end, they just stop funding it. Right? They just stop giving money to it. And it would end. Like, even Nazis negotiate when they're out of bullets. Right? So hopefully that answers your question, Dame Nathan. I always try to give first-time commenters preference. Oh, and I'll also give you, if you want a longer history of that war in that region, I think John Mearsheimer has, he's really the voice that I would pay a lot of attention to. John Mearsheimer. This fella here. And he's done a lot of good work. And another one that I would listen to is Jeffrey Sachs. Jeffrey Sachs has also done a lot of great work. Yeah, there he is. He's also done a lot of great work on this subject. So, Dame Nathan says, do you see Ukraine signing a ceasefire or just... So the hard reality about what's going on in Ukraine. So this territory here that I'm drawing from, like the corner, basically the corner of Moldova, right, over to Kharkiv, basically carve that. That's Russian territory now, right? More or less, right? Essentially. Yeah, Kharkiv down to Dnipro. Yeah. And like, so this is sort of debatable, but it doesn't matter. This territory, bare minimum, is gone, right? This is now Russian territory, 100%, right? The Russians are not going to give it back. The Ukrainians can't take it back. The trouble with the situation is that the Nazis in Ukraine fully understand that any deal that is made between Kiev and Moscow is going to send them up the river. There's just like someone's going to pay. Right? And so the most likely outcome is that Ukraine is just going to continue collapsing and essentially become, what's the phrase, a rump state. Like, it's going to exist, but it's not going to have any ability to really produce anything or engage meaningfully on the world stage economically. And any internal military buildup the Russians will go in and destroy. Like, the circumstances for the Ukrainians are about as dire as it gets. Russia has air supremacy. It has naval supremacy. It can cut Ukraine off from the Black Sea. Right here. It doesn't do that because they know that that would create a famine. And that's the last thing they want. They don't want to create a famine in Ukraine. They've been very careful to not create a famine in Ukraine. And but there does come a point. Yep, they already have in-ways with deals with Africa and all of that. Yep. My feeling is that as the crisis of this begins to continue a downward spiral, and it is going to continue a downward spiral, as it gets worse and worse and worse, neighboring countries are going to start peeling pieces off of it. And I don't necessarily mean through warfare, but just like, it's not hard to see, like, Lviv here, right? Basically saying to Poland, hey, can you extend your border around us and can we get access to your infrastructure? Like, we're in a real crisis here. Can we get connected to that? And that Warsaw will just go, yeah. And eventually they'll just move territory in, they'll move stuff in, and the Ukrainians won't have any capacity to stop them from doing it. Right? That, like, Koval will look at Belarus, and Belarus will just go swoop, and this territory will just become part of Belarus. Just swoop. Right? Like, little, you see on the map here, there's all these like little dotted lines. Right? These dotted lines are what are called de jure territories. And that's a very technical political term that essentially means these have always been understood historically as the borders of these provinces. That you don't really get a piece of this. This is like the lowest common denominator of a unit of land when you get to this level. That if this piece of territory goes, the whole thing goes. And that's usually because these lines are usually drawn along rivers, right? Geographical locations, mountain ranges, oceans, lakes, rivers, right? So they're like, okay, we own the territory to the river. And everybody's like, yeah, that's cool. And so as we move forward, my expectation is that provinces are just going to start peeling off, and they're going to go to Belarus, they're going to go to Poland, Slovakia, Romania, Hungary, Moldova even, right? Just as the situation gets more and more dire. And of course, like, these leaders are not fools. They're like, oh, that's resources and territory, and Ukraine can't exploit those resources and can't exploit those territories because they're destroyed, and they're totally corrupt, and they don't have any capability to do so. They don't have any productive capacity. And anytime they do build up any kind of significant productive capacity, Russia bombs it. So eventually there just comes a point where Ukraine just sort of like empties out. And so my expectation is that as this moves forward, like, this is Russian territory, right? Boom. That's 100% Russian territory. And then this starts breaking up, starts just cracking up and becoming its own thing, joining Belarus, joining Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania. This all falls apart. And that essentially Kiev stands as like Ukraine, right? And nobody wants to go to Kiev. Nobody wants to try to launch a siege on Kiev because they don't have to. There's no reason to. And so Kiev will so Ukraine, at the end of all of this, Ukraine will just be left an impoverished, ground down, destroyed nation, and will basically stand as a living testament to what happens to nations that negotiate with NATO. It'll be like a warning, like a totem. Just don't do this. And and believe me, the world is looking at Ukraine and is definitely like, China is looking at Ukraine and looking at Taiwan and being like, same story. Hell, Myanmar, same story. Right? It just keeps happening over and over and over again. It's just Ukraine was the one that white Westerners actually paid attention to. Right? Like, the story of Ukraine is the story of Myanmar. It is the story of South Vietnam. It's the story of Taiwan. America keeps doing it over and over and over again, and they're losing the ability to do it. Because more and more people are more and more leaders are beginning to come to power, and they're beginning to look at Ukraine, look at Myanmar, look at Taiwan, and they're beginning to say, countries that go along with the Americans end up getting destroyed. Dame Nathan says, NATO has invested too much in Ukraine to quote-unquote fail in the eyes of the public. So while treaties can be signed, do you see what's happening in Syria? Will Ukraine look like that? Yes. Yeah. Syria is a little bit more dramatic because of the absolute desperate importance of Israel to America. Israel and the Israeli lobby and the Zionists are too well integrated into the system to have an abandonment moment. And so Syria is like, it's cursed, right? It's just cursed because it's directly beside these Zionists, and there's nothing they can do about it. And Syria underwent like serious civil wars, American-backed coup attempts, and now finally this final push that, like, they were very weak, right? It's pretty telling that while this conflict was going on, Israel and America were able to get into Syria and chase Assad away, right? It tells you how weak they were in the first place, which makes sense. And so now it's being led by some stooge, essentially, who, if history is our guide, eventually will turn on America the same way that Saddam turned on America, which is that he wanted to actually help his own people somehow. And America won't have that. It's all for us and go fuck yourself. Ukraine is different, and it is different. If you want a closer one-to-one to what what could happen in Ukraine, or what it will look like, I think it is Vietnam. Because America will never leave Syria alone because of Israel. They will absolutely abandon Ukraine. The same way they abandoned Vietnam, right? The same way they abandoned Afghanistan. That's another good one. Afghanistan, just like that. Just literally one day, they'll say, we're leaving. And they'll just drop everything and they'll just leave. Because that's how America rolls, baby. That's how America rolls. And incidentally, that will happen to Israel one day as well. Not tomorrow, obviously, but one day. One day America will just go, this is too much trouble, we're leaving. And they'll just leave. And all of the funding that Israel has received and everything they've ever gotten and all of the military equipment and all of the gear and everything, they'll just leave it there. And they'll just go home. That's 100% going to happen to Israel. I think it'll happen. Like, Netanyahu will be dead. Like, Netanyahu's going to die of natural causes. Like, that's how the world actually works. Like, he's not going to experience an assassination or something. Like, he's just going to die in office. Right? Or he'll, like, retire and, like, go somewhere. Who cares? Like, the Zionists are in control in Israel, and the Zionists are propped up by the American government, and the American government is largely in cahoots with the Zionists. And like, what the most embarrassing thing about this arrangement actually is that the entire thing, like, the American government gives money to Israel. The Zionists then send that money back to America in the form of the Israeli lobby, right? And they work very hard to lobby government officials. And they do so in exactly the way that you would think. They bribe them. And when I first ran into this story, I was like, man, they must be giving these people millions of dollars. The average bribe is like $10,000. It's like so nothing. Like, it's just the lowest level ever. That's how pathetic it's gotten. Dame Nathan says, do you think Mossad and Western Intel split? No. Would Israel and Russia ever team up? As funny as that sounds, Israel is now cursed. So I really want you to understand how cursed Israel is on the world stage now. Yeah, and I was just about to talk about this because the U.S.-Saudi deals should have you worried. So before October 7th, right, the moment that they can't shut the fuck up about, right, Israel and Saudi Arabia were normalizing relations. This would have been a disaster for the Palestinians because it would have essentially gotten Israel connected to the Saudi princes. Let me be real clear about something when it comes to the Saudi princes. These guys are Machiavellian geniuses. I really, really mean this. That the people in the world who are the best at doing politics are the Saudis. They know exactly what to do. They are not precious about it. They do not run ideologically. Like, they are hard-nosed realists. They do not fuck around. They have high popular support with their own people, especially impressive during the war on terror. And they're always on the right side of power. They're always on the right side of power. I always jokingly say, at the end of every major conflict, there's a picture of the victors, and the person that's two people to the left is a Saudi prince. They don't want to be front and center. They don't want to be the center of power. They want to be off to the side. And they always are. And they are visionaries. They're always casting their gaze to the future. They care about wealth and power, obviously, and like extravagance. They obviously like luxury. But they also understand that they want to sustain and maintain that. And so they make good decisions for themselves. So I'm like, don't get me wrong. I say the Saudis are Machiavellian geniuses. They do brutal shit all the time. But it puts them on the right side of power. And so the Saudis were absolutely fine with normalizing relations in the face of that genocide. The Saudis were absolutely going to normalize relations with Israel, create an open trade between themselves and Israel, increasing the prosperity of the Saudi princes. But the Gaza genocide changed all that. The Gaza genocide destroyed that relationship. And it made the people of Saudi Arabia, like the Saudi princes don't give a fuck at all. They're Machiavellian evil geniuses. They don't care. The people of Saudi Arabia were like, that's over. We're condemning that. And the Saudi princes, because they know that the people are where the power is, they said, you're absolutely right. We will not normalize relations with Israel. We are not going to continue trading with them, and we're going to move away from them. And what this allowed the Chinese to do, I really need you to understand the colossal level of the fuck up that the Americans and Benjamin Netanyahu have done here. It allowed China to sweep in and create a trade agreement between Iran and Saudi Arabia. I really need you to understand how huge that is. That is a monumental regional shift. Saudi Arabia and Iran have historically been antagonists with one another. They've historically been at odds with one another. China came in, Iran, Saudi Arabia. Why don't you guys bro down? Why don't you join forces? You two regional powers together could be unstoppable. And the Saudis and the Iranians said, you're right. Now, the Saudis have kind of a hands-off relationship. They're not all in. But it's a huge, huge, huge shift. Oh, yeah, and you're talking about BRICS and the Extended Belt and Road and all of that kind of stuff. My favorite thing that's happening with Saudi Arabia, so this is getting into, I don't want to use the word conspiratorial, but it is getting into like, everything I'm about to say is absolutely true. Nobody has spelled it out the way that I'm going to spell it out, right? No Saudi official has stood up and said, yes, this is the thing that we are doing. But it's obviously the thing that they are doing, which is that in this region here, they're building a project called NEOM. I don't know if you know about this. NEOM, NEOM. They're calling it the city of the future, right? And it's a big, long, what the design of the thing is, it's a big, long, straight city that's supposed to be vertical. So they're essentially building gigantic walls in the desert in a straight line, you know, like a railway station. It's very, very clear to me that what they're doing is they're building a gigantic railway station in the city, in this region here, Neom, to connect the Belt and Road from Tehran into Neom, and then I think they're going to tunnel under. Although the Chinese have built bridges over bodies of water like this. And they're going to build a connection for the Belt and Road to go through the Gulf of Aqaba into the Suez Canal and into Africa. Another possibility, although I don't think the Saudis would like this, is that they will connect with Neom to connect to Rada, go down to Sanas, and then connect to Djibouti. Djibouti is China's only military base abroad. China doesn't have any military bases anywhere else in the world except Djibouti. There's the Houthis. And the goal is to connect China by land to Africa. What's in the way? What's in the way? So they can't get through. This is incredibly geopolitically important route. They chose, Israel is a well-chosen place, like geopolitically. It's wedged. It's literally a wedge. Boom. Between Africa and the Middle East and China. It's literally like a spike. Just driven right in. And so the Saudis are going to help China go around it. And they're going to build over the Red Sea. Or, I think, under the Red Sea to connect to Africa. And once that connection happens, and Saudi Arabia is basically going to say to China, we are going to help you do that. We're going to spend trillions of dollars to build this city. Right? They're building this huge city in the middle of fucking a desert. And the deal that they're going to make with the Chinese is every single piece of trade that comes through that port, we want 0.1%, 0.01%. And China's going to say, absolutely. And the Saudi princes, in 100 years from now, will be quadrillionaires. They will have successfully wedged themselves as a key strategic trading point between China, which is the ascendant power in the world, and Africa, which is going to become the new ascendant power in the world. These two ascendant powers will trade with one another, and the primary trade route will be between a point that exists under the control of Saudi Arabia. Machiavellian evil geniuses. Fucking Machiavellian evil geniuses, man. It essentially is going to secure Saudi Arabia as an important, powerful player in geopolitics without even shooting a shot. Just, yeah, we're here. Hey, you wanna put your shit through here? Sure. We'll take our cut. Brilliant. Brilliant. And also what that's going to do, geopolitically, it's going to completely fuck over Israel. Like the whole premise of Israel. Israel exists as an entity for several reasons. Number one is to prevent this trade route from materializing specifically. Number two is to be a lily pad, right? But number three is to extend its influence and take over trading points like the Suez Canal. The Greater Israel Project is to eventually take this whole region over, to prevent specifically these sorts of trading projects from happening. So if the Chinese actually manage to do it, it'll completely fuck over Israel. You also asked about Turkey. Look, what's funny? I'll be very quick about Turkey because Turkey is funny. Look at Turkey. Just look at it. If I had to give a single image of Turkey, it's this. That's Turkey. Just, oh! And moreover, everyone seems to respect that. That seems to be what's interesting about Turkey. Is that Turkey is like, there's Israel, Syria just got overthrown, there's the border, that whole civil war was happening right there, the war on terror was right there, the Georgian coup right there, right? Literally war on terror, Syrian civil war, overthrow of Assad just happened, 2 coups happening in Georgia and Azerbaijan. Meanwhile, here's Bulgaria and Greece, right? And Turkey is just like, the Ukraine war is happening right there. There's the Black Sea. Istanbul is like absolutely connected as a trading partner into all of this. Turkey is playing all sides of all conflicts and everybody knows it. But nobody can do anything about it. And it seems to me that most people, but this is the thing, Dame Natton, it's not about determining who Turkey stands with, because Turkey stands with Turkey. And that's it. They're not, quote unquote, playing sides. Like they're not picking sides. They're straight out just being like, Russia wants to do trade with us? Yeah. Bulgaria wants to do trade with us? Italy wants to do trade with us? Yeah. Iraq wants to do trade with us? Egypt, Libya? Yeah. 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 And if somebody comes to them and says, hey, this causes us geopolitical problems, they're going to be like, we don't give a fuck. Look at us. And there does come a point where you got to have to go, yeah, like, yeah. Like, geographically, Turkey is fucked. And their strategy is just, whatever's good for Turkey, baby. Whatever's good for Turkey, baby. Whatever's good for Turkey. I think they're doing a pretty good job. Like I think that the Turkish people are doing a pretty decent job, all things considered. All things considered. So, I don't think that they're gonna like buddy down with anybody. And moreover, I feel like they've been pretty clear that they're not gonna buddy down with anybody. They're willing to trade, but in terms of like, we're not going to send military aid, we're not going to send support, and if the trade that we do causes you problems militarily on your side, tough. And I think they've been pretty clear about that. And moreover, it just looks like everybody respects it. I've said that a couple of times, but it just straight up, like anytime I hear, look at the Americans, the Chinese, the Russians, the Europeans, the Africans, the Middle Eastern countries, anytime anybody looks at Turkey, it's always with this element of like, yeah, okay. What are you going to do? Because what are you going to do? Like, look at them. They're fucked. So moving over to India, India has too much internal corruption to be powerful. That Modi, the Indians are still too married to neoliberal economics and old ways of thinking. They never really recovered from the British Empire. Like the British Empire fucking decimated India. Like I don't think people really understand the scale to which India was decimated by the British Empire. Like the transfer of wealth, the destruction of like major institutions in India. And so India is still kind of just recovering. And the struggle that I think India has been having is they've been, and Bangladesh, yeah, I think that's, thank you, Anemone. The struggle that India has been having, of course, is that they've really hung on to old rivalries. Like, the relationship between India and China has only very recently, like within the last decade, very recently, become cordial, where they're willing to look at one another and be like, we can do business, I guess. And that has primarily happened because the rise of China happened so fast. Initially, India was like, the Chinese are going to invade us. Oh my God, it's a crisis. Oh my God. And then it's like, okay, they're not invading us. They're not, they keep saying they're not going to. And they keep acting like they're not going to. Although there's still like border scuffles and things like this that kind of keep tensions simmering. But the thing that I think has India, like, India is looking at China and actually saying, how do we do that? China came out of nowhere. China just literally went, really think about this, man. From 1970 to the modern day, 50 years, almost nothing. A blip, like just a non sequitur period of time. China literally went and just built entire cities out of fucking nothing. Just and it's making a lot of countries go, how did you do it? How can we do it? And India, I think, is one of those countries. And India is just getting primed now. Because India was looking westward. It was listening to neoliberal economists. It was listening to neoliberal economics. And India is going to be the real true tale of the abject failure of Western economics. Because India, for the longest time, for the last 50 years, has been like, okay, the West, economics, look how rich they are. We have to do what they say and try to do all that kind of stuff. And now they're just kind of in the last decade turning their gaze towards China, not with skepticism, not with this sense of like, oh, China, but with this sense of sort of curiosity. And they're saying, we got to do what they did. How did they do that? And they're going to start, and they're starting now. And so my expectation is that over the next 50 years, so the last half of my life, India is going to do the same thing. It's just going to come up, right? But they're really just starting now. And incidentally, Africa is going to have a similar thing happen to it. And a lot of this is all tied in with the Belt and Road Initiative. That emanating from China is this just singular message of like, you can do it too, baby. You can do it too. Let's all get rich together. I've got this resource. You've got that resource. Let's trade it. We've got a whole rail system here, right? The Americans can't do anything about it. Let's trade. Let's trade. Let's trade. And China, India, sections of the Middle East that the Americans aren't fucking up with, sections of Africa, are just going to go, and while they are ascending, China is going to be on the top of that, and it's just going to keep going. And like in 20, 30, 40 years, man, China is going to be unrecognizable. It's absolutely going to be stunning to watch. Like, it's going to be staggering to watch. The shit that's going to happen in China, people aren't going to believe it. People aren't going to believe it. Nilo writes, you might need to read up on the RSS. What's the RSS, Nilo? Dame writes, China is disciplined differently. India has a competitive population. That's why I asked, because eventually we're going to see someone in the region challenge China. And Australia plays a wild card. Yeah, I mean, look, a big reason why China is able to achieve the things that it's able to achieve is because of the strength of the institution of the Chinese Communist Party. Right? Hi, I'm the Canadian commie. I'm going to defend the Chinese communists. The Chinese Communist Party, the Chinese Communist Party is like, people pretend as though communism in China died with Mao. And that people will accuse Deng of revisionism, that he's not a real communist, all of this kind of stuff. And the reason why they accuse Deng of that is because they have an ideological view of communism. And they fail to understand that Marxism is a scientific socialist pursuit. It's a science. Like, it's a tool that you use to interact with reality. It is not a doctrine to bend reality to fit it, which is how a lot of, especially Western Marxists, view Marxism. That Deng and the Chinese communists after Mao, and even during Mao, many of them, understood that Marxism is a tool to be used to navigate reality with. And when Mao dies, the Vietnam War ends, the Cultural Revolution ends, major turmoil in China and around China ends, the Americans go home, right? And China is permitted to develop peacefully so long as they open their borders to foreign capital. But when that foreign capital comes into China, it does so under the guidance of the Communist Party of China. And it's been this hybrid, it's been this relationship that has allowed China to grow so effectively. Because while there is a great deal of sort of free market that happens, there's a strong oversight coming from above that enforces itself. And the concern is that this institution will itself get infected by capitalism. But Xi Jinping very recently launched an entire anti-corruption program. His whole platform is anti-corruption. To essentially, like, Xi Jinping has essentially launched a cultural revolution internally on the CCP. And they've purged and expelled members of the CCP because they are corrupt, which is to say they're too influenced by capitalism and capitalist institutions. And so that institution is what people need to study. The institution of the National People's Congress, the governmental structure of the Chinese Communist Party, because that's where the success is emanating from. They've been put into a position where they have to negotiate with Western capital. And Western capital, Hillary Clinton literally gave a speech about this. It was like a Zoom call where she was talking about this very thing with China, where she said, we thought that we were going to invite them into Western institutions and they would become capitalists, and they didn't. That they took the means of production for themselves and they used it for themselves. And if we want to become powerful, we have to regain control of our means of production. That's a paraphrase, but that's what Hillary Clinton used the phrase means of production. Yeah, and Monsieur is absolutely right. China is now consolidating rather than growing as part of its economic strategy. Yeah, and consolidation from the free market capitalist neoliberal perspective is heresy, right? They consider that to be death. Like, if you're not growing, you're dying. Well, China's like, no, fuck you. What are you talking about? We have all this wealth. We have all this power. We just need to consolidate it. We're fine. Stomps, what book should I read to educate myself more on socialism? I always recommend um, Richard Wolff, Understanding Socialism. But Richard Wolff, just search him on YouTube. He's got so many lectures, so many speeches. He's a teacher from the University of Massachusetts. He holds an economics degree from the Princeton, Yale, Stanford. Like he's extremely well educated. And some of the stories he has to say are pretty astounding. Like he has all these economics degrees, and he says nobody ever told me to read Marx. It's just like, oh shit, so they're illiterate. Oh fuck. I will, Nilo. I'll look it up, because you're right. I'm not that well informed about the power behind Modi too much. I need to do a little bit better. Dame Nanton continues, when we were speaking about Belt and Road extending to Africa, we didn't speak about China potentially extorting the Western buyers by raising prices on what's shipped by sea. Without getting too political, that's the tariff question. I'm not extremely familiar about what it is you're talking about. Like, I suspect that's true. Like, I suspect that one of the things that I've really noticed about China, and it's because it's governed by a communist party, is that they don't worship money the way the Americans do, right? Americans hold on to a religious ideology as their prime focus. And that religious ideology is the profit motive. If it makes money, it's good, right? And so the Americans, because they're all about making money, if it makes money, it's good. And that's all they care about, they've completely lost sight of the entire purpose of economics, which is goods and assets and the means of production. I like to say that the Americans have, they follow what I call the unholy trinity of the capitalist death cult, which is the worship of money, the worship of the self, and the worship of chaos, or what they call the free market. And because of this, it's completely blinded them from what's actually important in economics. While the Americans are following their religious ideology, the Chinese are following scientific socialism. They're actually looking at what reality has to say about what's going on. And so what this allows China to do, and to America, when China started doing this, China started to do this around the 2000s. They started to manipulate the price of their currency. When they started doing that, the Americans flipped their shit. They lost their goddamn minds. Because to them, that was just outright heresy. That the Chinese actually lowered the value of their currency in order to benefit themselves through trade. Anytime the Chinese get caught in some kind of negotiation where a debt is the core concern, there's a core concern and it's a debt owed to China, the Chinese forgive the debt. Because the Chinese Communist Party understands the point is not the money. We are not motivated by the profit motive. We want assets. Gold and silver do not build ports. Labor builds ports. So they've done it on several occasions. Dame Nathan, China's using Mexico as a way to evade. Will the United States and Mexico see friction? Oh, yeah. Take a look at what Trump is doing with all this tariff conversation, dude. All this tariff conversation that's happening. Like, I've got this article right here, right now. Where is it? No, it wasn't an article. It was Canada not for sale. Welcome to Ontario, open for business. Trump is talking about launching tariffs against Canada and Mexico, right? He's talking about annexing Greenland. He has actually officially renamed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, right? Like, chances are good one day you're going to load up Google Maps and it's going to say Gulf of America. You watch. And and all of these tariffs and everything that America is doing is disciplining their allies. That Trump is taking America into a consolidation period itself. That it does not want Canada and Mexico trading with China. Everything that's about to happen during the Trump period is all about China. It's all about China. Because the frustrating thing for the Americans is they know they can't invade. Their best shot is Taiwan. And I think they're starting to recognize and realize that that's over. That it's not going to happen. And a big reason why Taiwan is not going to happen is because of how colossal a failure Ukraine was. And that the leadership of Taiwan is sitting there being like, yeah, if we declare our independence, we're going to look a lot like Ukraine. The major difference between Taiwan and Ukraine is that Ukraine is a much larger country. Look at Taiwan. That's China, dude. And China's been building up its military capacity, my man. So if Taiwan declares its independence, good fucking luck. And it's gotten to the point now where the Americans know it. And so what America is doing now is it's consolidating power in its hemisphere. This is why they're talking about invading Panama and seizing control of the Panama Canal. Because that actually prevents trade from China, right? That China can't just go through here, right? They've got to go all the way down and around, right? They want to do everything they can to make trade between China and Africa as difficult as possible, and between Venezuela and China, right? They don't want Venezuela to just be able to go boop and then cross the ocean. They want Venezuela to have to go. They don't want to give any breaks to anybody. And so that's what it's all about. It's about disciplining Canada. It's about disciplining Mexico. It's about consolidating power in the region. Because what the next phase for the capitalists is, because you got to remember, capitalists and their religious ideology is all about expanding into new markets. Where's the new market? Well, do you know what the new fucking market is? You're never actually going to believe it. The new market is the Arctic. As global warming thaws the polar ice caps, it is actually revealing Dame Natten is like on the pulse, dude. I said the Arctic and you put that comment on at the exact same moment. That's hilarious. As the polar ice caps melt, as the water melts, it's going to reveal resources. Map of the world from the perspective of the Arctic. Just pick one. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, that'll do. There's the North Pole. Here's the Arctic Ocean. Right? This is, right here, the next global conflict. Canada, Alaska, connecting in there. There's Russia, right? And there's Europe. We're looking at like a neo-gold rush, right? Except it's not going to be gold. It's going to be like boron and lithium, right? We're going to send all kinds of people up into the Arctic Ocean as the ice begins to melt. We're going to send up crews in the hopes that underneath that ice, there's resources to be exploited. And it's going to create a gold rush, and it's going to create friction between Russia and NATO. And they know it. Russia knows it. Canada knows it. Europe knows it. America knows it. And so what America is gearing up for is it's gearing up for this next, the next phase of global conflict, which will be climate wars, basically. And the American strategy, like, there's going to be domestic crisis. It's going to be a major domestic crisis, right? As the sea levels come up, as infrastructure stops being usable, right? And so the American strategy is to put a military base in every state, what they call cop cities, right? So they're putting a military base in every state, cop city, and they are going to police the states through this military force. As places like Florida become uninhabitable, they'll just retreat up into Georgia, right? And I expect that each one of these individual states will essentially become like a neo-colony of a larger oligarchy, right? That the oligarchs won't really live. They'll live in their bunkers, right? They'll live in their palaces, and they'll be in heavily guarded fortresses that they won't really ever leave. And if they do leave, it'll be by like private jet. Whereas the rest of us will basically be governed by these cop cities, by these military bases. It's from here that the American empire collapses, and that we fall into a period of warlordism, essentially. And that the states begin to balkanize from one another, and that the whole idea of the United States ceases to exist. Yeah, the Mars thing is not going to happen. Like, that's a fairy tale. Like, Elon Musk is like, it was all a pipe dream in the first place. I know it was a joke, Dame. I know. You seem to be very clever. You seem to actually, it's been a long time since somebody's come in and even known something like the Belt and Road Initiative, like, or a BRICS. So kudos. Yeah. 13 years ago, he said 10 years. Yeah. Look, it was all a lie, right? And he knew it was a lie because he's a Nazi. He doesn't give a fuck, right? Elon Musk has been the front for the military-industrial complex to militarize space. That's been his job. That his job for the American empire and for the oligarchs has been the normalization of the militarization of space. And if the United States military had have done half of the things that Elon Musk has done in regards to militarizing space, it would have thrown up huge, gigantic, big red flags. But because he's a private investor, he's an entrepreneur, he's the new Tony Stark. Forgetting that Tony Stark was a fucking arms dealer. then he gets a pass. Right? His job is to militarize space, and he's doing it. Like, that's what Starlink is. Right? So, and here's what's crazy, man. Like, this is actually crazy. That the United States is going to fall into major internal turmoil. Like, these dimwits that are in charge right now actually think they're going to keep this thing going. They actually think that all of this is going to stay together and that the United States is going to remain stable and strong as a unit. That is not what is going to happen. The United States is going to fall apart. States will begin to peel off from the Union because they'll begin to see that it's way too burdensome to listen to the federal government anymore, that we're not getting anything out of it. And so, like, it's not hard to see Texas, California, right? Even a couple of the southern states, Washington, right? It's not tough to see. Like, what does New York look like? Why am I failing? What does New York look like once Long Island is flooded? Like, when the New York subway system becomes unusable, and it is going to become unusable, what does New York look like? So, states are going to begin to peel off. There's going to be internal consolidation, just how the American government is trying to consolidate America. Individual states will try to consolidate themselves, and eventually one of them is just going to say, fuck the Union, I'm out. And if I was a betting man, it'd be Texas, but California is on the table too. Tinfoil hat, but private military question since Elon is the topic. Oh yeah, no, that's for sure what's going to happen. Like, history is our guide. Matthias, good to see you, my man. Like, history is our guide, right? Every single time empires collapse, the unionized sort of provinces fall apart, falls into warlordism. Each warlord has their own military and their own private force, until finally there comes some kind of uniter, or one of them wins. That happens too. And they take all the territory back over, and then there's a reunification. And then the process of empire begins anew. And so my expectation is through my lifetime, I will witness that decay and that collapse. And when those collapses start to happen, any kind of imperial ambition that Donald Trump has for the Arctic Ocean, it's not real. And it's from those conditions that real communist leaders will arise. You sort of think about like the people who live in Portland, Oregon, right? Like, you sort of think about like the loony lefts, right? Like, it's not tough to see somebody like a veteran or somebody who is able to rally influence locally at the state level. And so you'll see a state shift hard left, like hard Maoist left. Dame Nathan says, Elon SpaceX is how I see Vlad's Wagner. I don't really see much evidence. Like, and I'm happy to look something up and I'm happy to read. I don't really see much evidence for the Wagner group outside of just like a mercenary group. Like, they look to me to just be like just a ragtag group of mercenaries, right? SpaceX is the United States military. Like, it's heavily subsidized by the United States military. I don't think Elon is going to successfully break that off. Do we see private securities and other forms of private militarization take form as more police states arise? Police cities, rather, arise. I think the most likely outcome, like, yes, private militarization and private security forces and all of that, I think, yes, absolutely. But really, I think that what you're going to look at is each individual state, as the decay and as the collapse continues, each individual state is going to break one way or the other, right? There's going to be breaks. It's not hard to see Texas take a hard right fascist break, right? Like, it's really important to point something out, okay? Here's Europe, okay? Right? This was Nazi Germany. Right? All the history of Germany and all of Nazi Germany happened here, in a place that is smaller than Texas, right? Like, the idea that America is going to remain a unified body, clown shoes. Totally not. Absolutely false. Each single individual state, like, the cop city that they're building is going to become like a central fortress. But the ideology or the ideas that are guiding it are going to be dictated by the people who live in the state. And some of those states are going to become hard fascists and Nazis. And some of them are going to experience revolutions and overthrows. And some of them will actually just be social democrat and negotiate themselves through it. Like, it's just how it's all going to be. There's too many of them. There's 50 of them. There's 50 of these guys. So some states are going to go one way, other states are going to go the other way. Nobody's going to say neoliberal, because that's a dead ideology that leads to a dead end. And everybody saw it, and everybody sees it. And so it's Bob's your uncle, man. It's like everything's on the table now. And as the break-aparts happen, different organizations are going to seize control of the cop cities and of the military infrastructure. And the United States of America, quote unquote, will still exist, but it'll be like 20 states, right? It'll be like a union of like the original colonies. It'll be like New York over here. But New York is going to be devastated, right? So it's just catastrophes upon catastrophes upon catastrophes. It's impossible to predict what's going to happen, ultimately. But America will absolutely balkanize. Dame Nanton says, the Red Army is Russia's army above the table. Wagner is under the table. That's how Elon is attempting to form SpaceX in comparison to our Space Force. He wants to be the incognito in command. My view of Wagner is that it's just a straight up mercenary group. I don't think it's any more complicated than that. Like, the Russia has its proper military, its civilian army, right? That's made up of Russian citizens, and then there's Wagner. They're mercenaries, and I don't think we need to complicate it any further than that. And yeah, I think like Elon's whole grift has always been that he's like this super genius guy, but he's really just like bought in, right? And he's useful to the power structure because he's like his relationship to us is very similar to our relationship with Zelensky. Like, Elon Musk doesn't actually have any power, right? He's just a clown. He's just a clown that we all look at. And as long as he does what he's told, he can continue being the clown, right? And he is a clown. Like, he's very dumb. The whole, like, this whole story of him trying to impress gamers with his Diablo character and his Path of Exile character, and then him finally admitting that he just bought the characters. He had them boosted. It's like absolutely embarrassing. It's absolutely fucking embarrassing. Because he's a clown. And as long as he does what he's told by the American military, they're happy to keep him in front of us. Yep, an electric car company owner standing next to Drill Baby Drill. Yeah. Like, Elon Musk doesn't have any principles or thoughts or ideas, really. Like, he's just cosplaying as intelligent. And because he's rich, nobody calls him on it. You just put him in front of Joe Rogan, and then you have Elon Musk say some, like, first year college level philosophy, and Joe's like, whoa, I didn't know. Well, do you really think that? Oh, and Elon goes, and then Joe goes, oh. And the masses are entertained. Elon's the most brilliant guy, right? And how do we know he's brilliant? Because everybody says so. Matthias writes, John called it years ago. We are here now with outright in-your-face fascism. A Nazi salute on live TV, and the mega simps are like, oh, he's just throwing his heart out. Yep. Yeah, it's hard to be right. It's hard to be right all the time. Yeah, Rogan, I think that we can pretty safely call Rogan just a useful idiot. I think that Rogan doesn't really respect... Like, Rogan does not actually respect how manipulatable he is and how good intelligence services are at manipulating people. Like he took the $100 million, right? Spotify basically looked at him dead ass and just said, we'll give you $100 million. Move to Texas. And he was like, yes, sir. And now a whole bunch of billionaires are calling him. And he keeps putting CIA agents on his podcast. And I'm sure that in his mind, he has justified it to himself. It's like, why wouldn't I talk to big, important people? Yeah, big, important people are talking to me, and I want to have big conversations with big, important people. Like, yeah, Joe, they want to talk to you because you don't give any pushback at all. Like, you just give the most softball interview anybody's ever seen. The only time you ever get skeptical, ever, is when somebody starts talking about your marijuana, your marijuana habit, right? Like, have you ever noticed that Joe just basically agrees with whoever he talked to last? Like, we just got to stop listening to clowns, man. Because for all his, like, working out and MMA connection and bro and all this kind of stuff, he's a clown. Right? Just like Zelensky. Right? Just like Musk. He's just a fucking clown. Oh, so I'm like an hour over. This was a really nice one, guys. This is a really nice one. Someone over on Twitch really, hey, Ander, maybe don't just say everything you think, okay? Like, for real. Not everything you think is a good thing to say. Maybe run it through a couple times, right? Give me a third draft. All right, guys. Dame, it was a pleasure. Always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being, walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are doing everything they can to make it so you won't realize it. rebel, revolt, repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.